Hello friends, welcome to Universe of Naruto X. If you love Naruto what if stories and anime explanations, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Now let's begin today's story. Days went by swiftly for Naruto. Between keeping tabs on Sasuke missions, his extra training and studying, he was running himself ragged, but he did not stop, nor did he even slow down. He pressed onward knowing that he must do this. He had to get Sasaki back. He had to. Danzo and his goons were patient. But Naruto was more. He had stopped 3 assignation attempts already. He has also been writing down the names of people he has heard in the many meetings he had overheard. He also marked a map to where each secret hideout was. All of these things he kept inside his evidence scroll. Weeks went by. Most everything stayed the same, but Danzo was getting testy. Someone was uncovering the attempts. Yet, none of the attempts had been revealed to the public. It was if someone was protecting the Hokage without even telling her. Still, he paced his office, planning on what to do. If this keeps up, I will no choice but to overthrow her with force, he thought. Then he looked down. He had one more plan to do before he was left with that option. It was a more testy approach. A quick assassination while she slept. He had no choice. He picked up a small folded paper and put chakra into it. It formed into a little black bird. It came to life and flew to the person it was meant to go to. As he summoned Sasaki once more, Naruto dozed. The sunlight warmed him up in a nice way. Hinata was once more with Ka out somewhere. It's good she has got over me, Ka will be good for her, he thought to himself. Knowing full well that they were more than just friends, after Nar had saw them in a deep kiss behind a tree only a few days ago. Nar smiled sadly. He knew that even if he was human, he could never like her like that. She was a smart, beautiful, kind person, but he saw her like a sister. The same with Sakura, he didn't know who he liked. So, in a way, it was good he died. It eased over the fact he would have had to confront her about it and he didn't want to see her side of rolled over. Something was bugging him. He decided to get up and go see what Sasaki was up to. Nar walked the streets openly. No one paid any real attention to him, but still Nar kept a weary eye out. Then Naro saw a flash of familiar reflex. He hid behind a barrel. It was Sasaki. And in his pocket, he could see the edge of a paper black bird, which meant Danzo had summoned him. Nar grinned. My gut is always right, he thought as he quickly followed but made it look like he was not following. Once again, Sasaki disappeared by a familiar walk-through wall. Naruto slipped in carefully after placing himself in his usual hidden spot. A small vent duct. Danzo was getting testy. He could smell it. Finally, he said, this is the last silent option we have, he said angrily, throwing something at Sasaki. He commanded Sasaki violently. Sneak into her room when she is asleep and smother her with a pillow. He said, then added, it will look natural. Everyone will think the old died of old age, so no one will suspect foul play. That was it. Sasaki nodded and left. Nar then got up and entered the outside world again. Naruto's heart raced in his throat. His gut told him that the time was drawing in. Naruto quickly ran to the woods and once again trained his sealing jutsu even more, practicing until it was perfect. Sasaki Uchiha snuck through a window. Tsunade had no guards or any arms due to the fact she was. No one would try and mess with her. Oh, how naive people could be. Sasaki wore a black mask to cover his face. His hair was pulled back in a small pony to keep out of his eyes, and he eased across the floor slowly, making sure not to make a noise. Finally, he came to her bedroom. She slept deeply. Her henge taken off for the night. She had some wrinkles, but due to her good health and assortment of creams she used, she did not look as old as she should be. Her hair, on the other hand, was thin and graying. She looked in a way innocent, the way she had no idea her life was about to end. Sasaki poised a pillow, ready to smother her. It was just over her head when a howl split the calm night. Sasaki vanished, dashed away instantly. Tsunade woke with a start. She heard the sound of something landing softly outside her window. Then the poof of someone transporting themselves away. Tsunade rose and calmly went to the window that was open. Somehow she knew that her life had been in danger. It was like a premonition in her gut. She smirked as she reached to grab a almost invisible object in the night. But she did see a strand of beautiful black hair. This told her that the person who had broke in and probably tried to murder her in her sleep with a pillow. How interesting. Tsunade placed the hair in a small bag, then went through her mind of those who knew the transporting jutsu, then with black or dark long hair, then to people who have questionable backgrounds. She snorted. It was quite obvious who had tried to do this. Let's just say she was going to have a very interesting chat with Uchiha Sasaki tomorrow. Then it dawned on her that tomorrow she had to do a rookie N assessment. So he was going to be there, and if he did show, she could question him. If he didn't, then she could assume if her hunch was right, it was him. Then she could track him down and kill him. Briefly, the thought of Nar crossed her mind. Sorry, brat. Wherever you are, he's not worth saving. I hope you understand. Then she went back to bed. After locking the windows, of course, Nar smirked to himself. He held it just the right time. He ran happily back, adding an extra bound in his step. That should slow them down, he thought as he ran back to the compound before Hinata woke up to find him missing again. The last time was not good. Heya got in her head that he was out visiting lady friends and he needed to be taken care of, meaning fixed, and he was not getting that done. Not without a fight, of course. Sasaki swore and cursed as he ripped the mask off. He would have to get her another time. Until then, act like nothing happened. So, he would go to the assessment tomorrow, even though his guts told him no. But would he care? The only thing at the moment he wanted was revenge on that animal that had made that noise. It was a deliberate howl. And there was only one animal in the entire village to howl like that. That low moaning wolf howl with a slight high-pitched keen to it. Let's just say he was going to have an interesting talk with Hinata tomorrow. Naruto sat looking up at the moon. His nerves were frazzled and his heart raced. Tomorrow is most assuredly going to be the confrontation day, he thought to himself. Naruto heaved a heavy sigh. I wonder what they will think. He thought as he looked towards Hinata's room. Naruto followed Hinata and Ka as they walked to the Hogue's office. They were caught up in conversation and paid him no heed. So Naruto, taking his chance, slowly slipped behind them and soon split away and ran to his father's house. He went over and picked up his evidence scroll and was about to go when he spotted some old wrist braces. They were in a far corner, hidden and tucked away in the back. He walked over to them. They wear metal with leather padding on the inside to keep the skin from shafting. They wear long enough and big enough to fit on his forearms of his legs. He looked closer to see the Uzumaki swirl pattern lightly traced in the brandished metal. Naruto smirked as he saw his reflection. He looked up as a thought ran into his head. Why the heck not? He said to himself, it's not like I am going to a normal dog from now on. Everyone waited quietly in the office. Senseis were not allowed at the meetings, which was good because everyone was squished already. There was few chairs that were in the office. Hinata sat on Ka's lap. Ka had one arm around her waist. Everyone laughed and giggled and joked around except Sasaki, Shino, and Shikamaru. Then Tsunade cleared her throat. Everyone calmed down. Okay, everyone, I am bringing important news. I am thinking of stepping down as Hokage. There was an audible gasp throughout the room before anyone could yell at her. Why? She put her hand up. It seems to be that I am an inadequate Hokage. Sakura snapped out. What makes you say that? Tsunade replied calmly. Because last night there was a try on my life while I was asleep in my own house. There was a dead silence throughout the room. Then she continued, but I have narrowed out the possibilities of who did it, she said then continued. 1. They know the transporting jutsu. She said, holding up one finger. 2. They have dark hair, she looked to Sasaki. Now, Sasaki, I am not saying it was you, but you have both of these qualities. As investigation stands, I have to question all suspects. Do you have an alibi for last night? Around the time between 1000 p.m. and 1 a.m., Sasaki stepped forward. I do, and I was heading home with a slight buzz from the bar I was at. Tsunade quirked an eyebrow. Can anyone back your statement? Sasaki nodded, then fumbled in his pockets. He pulled out a receipt from the bar. Tsunade looked at it. It stated he had a few drinks and a meal at 10:30 and have him leaving at 11:45. She cursed the attack was at 11:30. She sighed. Maybe she really was getting old. She nodded and gave it back. Very well, Sasaki. I am sorry about this. It is my duty. Sasaki nodded. I understand completely, but I swear to you, I am trying to turn over a new leaf. I am not the old Sasuke I once was. Before anyone could say a thing, a deep voice rang out. That's right. This Sasaki Uchiha is even more murderous than before. Tsunade whirled around and everyone looked to the sound of the voice. It was coming from a figure that stood in the window. Hinata gasped. Everyone else stared. There was Fluffy dressed in what looked like chest armor like Ambu wears and metal braces on his forearms of his front legs. His hit was not Hinata's old one, but a different one made with black fabric and across his back a large scroll was strapped. He glared at Sasuke, eyes full of hate. No one said a word until Hinata muttered out. Fluffy. The dog looked to her. In context, yes, but that is not my real name. However, right now I have more important things on my mind than names. He jumped down and growled at Sasaki. Very clever counterfeit. You had Danzo make you last night. Makes you look almost innocent. I also like the added effect of you turning over a new leaf. But we both know that the only time you turn a leaf is to destroy it. He then jumped on desk and growled. Sasaki backed away. What are you talking about? Mud. Fluffy smirked. Very funny, but unlike you. When I plan my revenge, I think things through a lot better. I plan everything and leave no room for error. He paused, sending a knowing look at Sasaki. Like what happened last night. Did I startle you with my howl? Fluffy said, putting his head up inately. Then said, I know it was startling enough to wake the Hokage up. Then the dog grinned, his fangs showing. Sasaki glared at the dog. Like I said, I have no idea. Fluffy sighed. Sass, when will you ever learn? Acting like an idiot will never solve your problems. I learned that the hard way. Anyway, it doesn't matter, he said, shaking it from mind. Because I have all the evidence of every attempt you have done sealed away in this scroll. He then flipped the scroll on the desk. In here you will find plans and plots for not only last night's attempt but many others. I saved you from Lady Ad. Sasaki glared. He bit his lip in anger. Careful Sasaki with that temper of yours. I bet you're wondering how I did all this. How did I know about everything? Seeing the look on Sasaki's face, Fluffy grinned. Then said darkly, I say Sasaki that you had better watch yourself that I would be watching. Does that ring a bell? Sash staggered back as if Fluffy has struck him. And no, it can't be possible. Why, you're dead. Fluffy grinned from ear to ear. So I thought as well, but it turned out the demons took pity on me and gave me this body. Not too shabby, he said, turning around as if showing off. A little difficult at first, but it's easier to blend in like this. Sasaki cursed. How did you come back? Fluffy sat down. Easy. Once I died, I wandered for a bit, and like I said, the demons took pity, and here I am. At this time, most everyone was confused as hell, trying to figure things out. Shikamaru was burning gears in his mind as he too was trying to clarify what was happening by only using the verbal case that Sasaki and Naruto were giving. Sasaki said nothing then started. Why? Why not go to the afterlife? Fluffy sighed. Sadly, thanks to that little deal I made with Caillou, I was not permitted to enter heaven, he sighed. So, I was banished to be a ghost. But surprisingly, I met with Kobe later, and he did this summoning thing, and then the demon goddess appeared. And what happened? Well, happened, he said, looking down to himself. Sasaki said nothing, but already some realization was coming across the faces of the more smarter of the rookie nine. He yawned. Plus, I really wanted to get revenge on the one who killed me, he said casually. Then huffed. But of course, I had to obey Sakura's wishes. I let you return. Now you are back, so that promise is paid. Fluffy trailed off. Then rose a glint in his eye. Now I can finally avenge my own death. He snapped at Sasaki. It was silent. Then Sakura broke it, saying, Nar. He flickered his eyes to her. To everyone, then nodded slightly. Correct. I am sorry for fooling you and mostly you Hinata. I am very ashamed how I used you to get back, but I hope we can still be friends after this. But right now, I have business to take care of. Then Nar growled lowly. Sununade stood up, slamming her hands. Nar leapt away and turned to her and yelled, everyone stop this now. Just because a dog talks and says it is Nar and gives me a scroll saying as evidence does not mean it is true. Ba-chan Nar barked out, no pun intended, so forcefully yet also hinted sadness caused her to pause. You sit back down and sip your tea and read that scroll. I will handle the traitor. You and I both know that one death could never take away my Nindo. There was a silence. I never give up and I never run away. I proved that once and it cost me. And I am proving it once more, but this time I will be returning back to you, slumped in her chair. Then Naruto turned to them, flickering his eyes back to Sasaki. Tell me, 10, ready for a real fight this time. Sasaki smirked. Are you sure you can handle this? Nar grinned. Believe me, this body is armed to the teeth with weapons, all pointing directly at you. Let's see how much you like getting stabbed in the chest with a sword. All I can tell you is it's pretty damn painful. Sasaki winced but stepped forward. Naruto's ears where a flurry of movement as a few shadow clones appeared. Stay back. This is my fight. No one intersperse. Don't worry. You won't lose me a second time. I promise, he said as the clones herded them into a tight group in the corner. Then he switched back to Sasaki. Sasaki drew his sword. Naruto sighed. It is time. His ears where a flurry of movement once more. Then 4 clones appeared, but these clones were different. Even Naruto changed. Blue chakras swirled around him. His eyes glowed brightly. Each clone traveled to a certain destination. Each one seemed to stand for a certain element. Naruto was wind. The clone with dark ochre fur and warm amber eyes with a kanji for fire on its forehead obviously stood for fire. Orangic chakras swirled around him. The next one was water. Light blue fur, dark almost purple-gray eyes with the kanji for water. Then a dark brown furred clone with muddy eyes stood for earth. The chakra around him swirled like a sandstorm. Then the last clone was a bright yellow, its eyes a pulsing green, its fur sparked, and the chakra crackled around him. They lined up perfect spacing and everything. Nar then quickly cut his wrist with a sharp edge of one of his bracers. The blood splattered to the floor. Then the clones and Naruto moved in sync as they went through some sort of dance with ears. It wasn't until halfway through Shikamaru noticed that the blood was animated and moving, writing strange symbols on the floor. It was a very huge, very complex sort of seal, and he could see already that it somehow paralyzed Sasaki, who was straining to move. Then the blood finished writing. Shikamaru could understand very little of it, and he considered himself a seal pro. All he knew was it sealed something very powerful, very strong, but in a way he had never seen. The chakra around the clones formed into ghostly wolf heads, each one howled eerily. Sasaki collapsed to his knees. A strange black mass oozed out of him. He screamed in agony. A terrible ripping and shredding sound filled the room along with a dark coldness. It sent chills down their spines. This chakra was cold and resentful, something unnatural and not right. It grew more and more, pressing down upon them with an evil pressure. Until the full Sasanu warrior was emitting from Sasaki, yet he still cried in agony. The wolf heads pounced. They swirled around the mass. It bellowed and roared demonically, but the wolves were not affected. They just curled tighter and tighter around the mass, seeming to hurt it somewhere. The wolves struck. They grabbed a hold of the mass. It screeched as well did Sasaki. A pulsing light filled the room. The mass shrank and shrank. It fought, but the wolves beat it down, howling and growling. The elemental chakra flared and sparked in the air. Soon, both the wolves and the mass disappeared. The room seemed to lighten back up with the coldness gone. Sasaki sat, his head flung backward as he clutched his eyes. They bled and smoked. With one last burst of chakra, Sasaki was flung to the floor. He rolled around slightly, yelling, "My! What the hell?" Nar panted slightly. The 4 clones were gone. It is finished. My forbidden sealing art. Raging god of battle. Naruto shuddered slightly. It takes quite a bit of chakra. Plus to concentrate that much elemental chakra for so long. It's insane, but it effectively seals away your Sasanu. He said finally. You can never access that power ever again. Sasuke stood. He rubbed his eyes once more, sealing, huh? Nar nodded. Yeah, I am actually glad I take after my mother. Seals come in handy. Sasaki blinked a few times, I guess. But you are still at a loss. I can actually use my jutsu. How are you supposed to do Rin as a dog? Nar growled. Wolf-fox hybrid, he spat. Also, I would be glad to show you, but this not the place. Nar then leapt towards Sasaki. Sasaki brought his sword out. Naruto deflected the blade with his bracers, then used the sword to propel him behind Sasaki. Sasaki turned to him, but not swift enough. Using his jutsu that concentrated his chakra into claws, he swung at Sasaki, who wasn't able to move in time. The claws hit him in the guts. He flew across the room and through a window, clipping the wall with his head on his way out. Nar landed gracefully on his feet. He turned to his clones. No one intersperses. The clones nodded and formed a guarding circle around everyone. Everyone was shocked for a moment. I can't believe it. He was alive all this time and next to us the entire time. Then a clone said softly, we wanted to keep all of you safe and so we let you deal with your grief. We also wanted you to learn to get stronger and be able to believe and have faith when we are not there to inspire it. Shikamaru nodded to the clone. Thank you, Nar, even if you were a clone. The clone nodded. You welcome, Gao. Damn it. Didn't move fast enough. Sakura gasped. What is it? What's wrong? The clone shook itself. Nothing much. Just a flesh wound. Naruto clone smirked. Tang got a lucky jab with his oversized butter knife. Nothing I can't handle. Then the clone grinned and winked. Don't go worrying your head about me. I made a promise. Remember, stupid sucking prick. You and your Chidori blade. Let's see how much you like it. It was so ironic. Hinata couldn't stifle the laugh. Neither could anyone else. Nar growled lowly. They were battling it out on the roof. A few chunks of the roof were smoking craters. Another few spots were on fire. Nar winced. Sasaki got a lucky cut on his left front leg above the brace. Then he got hit by a Chidori blade which had made his back leg go numb for a bit. Although he was getting feeling in it once more, Sasaki though didn't escape unscathed either. A large cut bled freely on his hand from where Nar sunk his teeth. They glared and charged at each other once more. They dodged and intercepted blows. Nar using his chakra shield to block an even attack. Then he brought chakra claws down once more. Sasaki blocked with his sword, but the amount of force added to the fact it was in his weakened hand made him lose his sword, and it flipped end over end in the air and disappeared out of sight. Sasaki flipped backwards and went into the familiar hand signs for the fire release, Great Dragon Fire technique. A large burst of flames came hurtling at Nar in the form of a dragon. Nar quickly brought up his chakra shields. The fire swirled around him as he braced himself in his little dome of safety. Here he was caught in a raging inferno, and knowing Sasaki, he would be using this distraction to come up behind him or attack him from above. Naruto leapt up, his chakra shield forming to fur around his body as he leapt away from the inferno to intercept Sasaki, who was jumping over the flames to attack from behind. They met in the middle. Naruto did his great wolf fangs no jutsu and attacked the surprised Sasaki. The large wolf head lunged to snap at him. Sasaki defended it off with fire release. Great fireball technique. Both of them landed studying each other when the flames dispersed. All in all, they were even. Sasaki bent forward slightly. Then, using his special bracelets that had shuriken sealed away, he threw dozens of the things at him. Naruto had to dodge them and in doing so lost track of where Sasaki was. When Sasaki came behind him and used his strong fist, Naruto dodged and sprang up. His teeth sunk into Sasuke's arm. Sasaki sent a small amount of lightning chakra into his fist and punched Naruto in the head to get Naruto off of him. Naruto's fangs dragged across Sasuke's skin, causing him to rip Sasake's arm wide open. Sasaki exclaimed and tossed him with newfound strength. Nar flew quite a ways, and the lightning chakra he was hit with messed up his nerves, mainly the ones telling his feet and legs to save him from crashing across the roof and landing in a heap. Naruto staggered to his feet when he was able to. Sasaki was wrapping his arm. He had grown pale from blood loss. Nar spat the iron taste of blood from his mouth, not knowing if it was Sasaki or his own. Sasaki glowered at him. Then with his able arm and hand he formed a Chidori. It crackled like a 10,000 birds, hence the name Naruto growled and started to form the rin in his mouth. The two charged at each other. Naruto leapt and Sasaki yelled. The two jutsus collided. An infamous orb once again formed. Nar stared at Sasaki. Sasaki stared at Nar. Sasaki was fighting for his life. He had nowhere to go and no one to go to. Nar felt his resolve slip ever so slightly, but hardened his heart. You brought this on yourself, Sasaki. What goes around comes around, he thought. Then he sent an extra burst of chakra through his jutsu and it broke through the Chidori. The combination of the two jutsus expanded and started to tear apart the building. Finally, the building had enough and started to collapse. Luckily, no one was in it or near it. Nar landed on what he thought was a stable piece. He couldn't see where Sasaki landed, but the roof was giving way. Before he could jump away, Sasaki appeared with his sword. Nar was surprised, but then Sasuke's blade punctured through his armor and into rib cage, cracking a few ribs. Nar yelped in sudden pain. Nar grappled the air as he fell. He grabbed Sasuke's ankle and with all his might bit down until he heard a satisfying snap and Sasuke screamed in agony and they both fell with the building falling upon them. All of them knew something had gone wrong. A terrible roaring sound was heard. Got up and said they just destroyed that new apartment complex. But before she could say anything more, the clones all held in agony. All of them disappeared except for one who stayed for a bit longer. Sasaki got me when I fell through my armor. Our ribs cracked. I am buried in the rubble. Sash B broken ankle. Low chakra. Both of us bleeding pretty bad. Scratch that. Both of us is. Then the clone disappeared as well. Sunid quick as a flash jumped through the huge gaping hole in her office wall and ran to the pile of rubble. She yelled out, Nar. But there was no reply. Nar stirred awake. He was in darkness once more. He woke with a start. I can't be dead was his mantra for a few seconds before he realized he was in pain. A lot of it. He looked over himself. He had landed in a good place. A large section of the roof had kept him from being squished by the rest of the stuff. In fact, he even spotted a way out. Nar slowly moved his body, seeing what was hurt. His front left leg was broken. Sasake's sword was gone, but he could tell his ribs were more than fractured. And ironically, he was stabbed in the chest once more by a very large wood splinter. Naruto winced as he got up. He felt lightheaded, but he stood. He climbed slowly. His vest was all but destroyed, but still the protection lasted a little while at least. The jumps it took to reach the light jarred him and sent pain throughout his entire being. He coughed. Blood filled his mouth. He wheezed. My lung must be punctured, he thought and continued on. I must get help or I will die. Eni added flatly. Nar made it to the opening. He worked his way through to freedom. He looked down. Sununade was far below him. Looking intently for something, Nar saw a flash of light. It was Sasaki. As he had hobbled into view, Naruto could see he held a broken sword. Nar looked to his side and noticed that the other half of the sword was jutting out from his side. Interesting, he thought to himself. The look in Sasake's eyes was what gave away his plan. Nar gasped, then jumped into action. Ignoring the protest of his poor body, he rushed Tasad's aide, who was too busy looking for him to watch for her own hide. Nar raced and leapt into the air just as Sasaki had raised his broken sword. Naruto landed just in time, tackling him to the ground. Tsunade turned in surprise and dismay as they wrestled with the last of their strength with each other. Nar had knocked away the broken blade, his jaws ready to crush Sasuke's jugular. Sasaki was holding him back with his good arm, choking him. Nar shot a paw forward to strike him. He cut Sasake's face. Sasaki yelled in pain and loosened his grip. Naruto was merely a few centimeters from achieving his goal. When out of nowhere, a voice in a crackled old tone said, "Earth wall of destruction." Nar glanced in time to see a huge wall of earth. It hit him so hard he felt nothing for a bit. Then his body registered the pain. He blacked out, but woke back up when he landed in the dust. The council member then had him captured and pressed him more and more into the ground. Nar looked to see it was the male village elder Mitakato. Tsunade saw Naruto's pain and what was happening. Then she went over and shook the elder like a dog. Once again, no pun intended. "What the are you doing? Let him go. He's in pain." The elder let the jutsu go only because he couldn't concentrate when someone was shaking him. Tsunade then turned and ran to Naruto's side. He was a weak and absolute weak. She had seen better looking core. She dare not finish that sentence. She began to remove the destroyed armor. Then set out to remove the large wood splinter lodged in his chest. Sakura by that time had arrived. She sank to her side wordlessly and began to help her. There was so much to do. Everything within him was battered, bruised, or punctured. His ribs on his right side were mostly broken. His lung was punctured and was filling with blood even as they tried to stop all his other bleeding. Nar coughed up blood, then looked at them. "Don't worry, it doesn't feel as bad as it looks. Ark," he said, trying and failing to comfort them. Then Naruto's eyes started to close and open. "Nar, what's wrong?" Hinata said, scooting next to his head. "Good. You're here. Everyone is here this time. Last time it was bad. I was alone. That was the part one hated. Dying alone." Hinata started to cry. "We didn't mean to." Nar breathed haggardly. "There is that stutter again. And don't worry, I know. But the thing is, I really am afraid. No, I am petrified of death." He closed his eyes and a tear rolled out. I don't want to die again. I just came back and got to see what you guys had grown into. I don't want to leave you. I want to stay." Nar turned his head slightly, dragging it in the earth. P.S. Sakura D. Don't let me die. He pleaded to her with his voice and eyes. Sakura pushed tears from her eyes. "You're not going to Nar. Not until a long time when you were an old and have lived a good long happy life." Nar sighed. "I died when I was only 17. I never got to see my dream. I never was able to find a woman and settle down, have children, have a team of my own. None of that. But I still was happy. I had the greatest friends I could ask for. I had sensei and teachers who believed in my dream. And in a way, I have trained Konohamaru. He's like a student to me. Yes, I was happy. Not old, but happy in a way." Naruto coughed. Naruto whimpered. "It's happening. I can feel the pull once more. Please Sakura Tsunade tell me what to do." Hinata gripped his paw. "Hold on," she whispered. Naruto looked at her. "I am sorry for lying to you. I know you liked me but I am as sorry even if I was human again I don't think." Hinata nodded. "I understand." Nar grinned. "We had some pretty fun times though. Look what we did with Hiroshi. I just hope you were able to fight him back if I'd." Naruto stopped. His ears were perked, and his eyes focused on something else. For a moment, Hinata's blood chilled. She thought that he was gone. Seeing that which only those who were mowing onto the next world saw, but he still breathed. So she turned, and so did everyone else except Sakura, who were busy trying to save his life. Hinata gasped. It was a woman, dark-skinned but beautiful. Twigs and leaves were in her hair. Her robes were shimmering and perfect. She had many bangles on her wrists and ankles. Her jewelry was warm amber. She walked confidently up to them. Beside her walked a man that looked like Nar, only he had red hair and eyes and a more bronze skin. He was taller and had 9 tails flowing from him and 2 fox ears. Nar coughed and said, "Oh, Okami no Megami. Hugh, what are you doing looking like me?" The Kobe chuckled and sat down next to him. "Here you lay almost dead and you are wondering about my appearance. Okay, sir. I needed a human form. I decided to borrow your image. Just change it slightly. It works." The goddess leaned down. "What did you do? Get run over by a building?" She looked at the destroyed building heap. Then Naruto said, "That's exactly what happened." She grinned. "That is why I cannot be mad. Your soul so strong and happy, able to joke when death is lurking nearby." Naruto coughed. "Well, Caillou, go scare death away. Your breath out to do it." The man laughed. "Ha, you are a funny kid. All right, but no, it's not me who will scare death away, Mumi-chan." "Well, do that," he said, grinning at her. Nar smirked. "You're going out now." He smirked. "Maybe." The goddess elbowed him in the ribs. "Quiet, you overgrown furball. I have to heal my small warrior." Nar coughed. "I am not small." But then went into a fit of coughing. "Quickly turn him to his back." She snapped. And Sakura did just that. Megumi put her hands on his chest. "To help you healers, I will give him an image for you to work with." Then like that, Naruto's appearance changed back to his real one. He was a human once more. Only he was pale. Blood trickled from his mouth, and he had a large puncture in his chest. He wore black pants, but no shirt or anything else. You could see a large bruise where his lung was, a small silver shard tuck out of it. Megumi swiftly pulled it out. Naruto's body flinched and he yelped. Megumi started to heal him. Tsunade and Sakura were able to work a lot better now they had a human anatomy to work with. Nar looked at each one's face. Shikamaru looked at him. "Come on, Naruto, you can pull through this." Nar smirked. "You never can truly see how you live your life until you look around at people that are by your sickbed or deathbed." Kobe sighed. "You know, if you keep saying you're going to die, you might jinx yourself and really kick the bucket again. Then maybe I can have the goddess of small furry animals resurrect you as a squirrel." Kobe snorted. Naruto sighed and Mumi did as well. "You have a terrible humor, Hugh." Naruto said, "Hey, I am a 9,000-year-old demon. I am easily amused. If I wasn't, I would have died of boredom long ago or went crazy and tried to attack a village." He grinned. "Ah, good times. Good times." Nar smirked. "Ironic. Isn't how life works. I get stabbed in the chest yet again and you're back in the village you attacked. Hey, what about our deal?" Kalubi shrugged. "What? I am not attacking it." Nar sighed. "I died for nothing. You still broke the promise." Then Nar smirked again. "Thanks," he said. Then his eyes fell. "You know I am very tired. I think I will go to sleep." "That okay, right?" Megumi nodded. "You are out of the clear." Then she stepped away and the image disappeared and Nar was back to a sleeping wolf form. Shikamaru, Neji, Ka, and Tsunade and Sakura eased Naruto onto a stretcher and carried him to the hospital. Once Naruto was asleep and under machines for the nights turned matters to finding out the information Naruto had paid so dearly for. First, she found out that the council members had taken Sasaki Uchiha to a private council center to be healed. She ordered a squad of Ambu to watch him and the council members at all times. Then she went to her office and opened up the scroll marked evidence and inside read as followed. September 12 followed Sasaki Uchiha at 136 p.m. He entered main hideout number 1. A hidden building in between Negami Snacks and Hod's bar entrance hidden under seal very unique wrote down below. Tsunade looked to see intricate patterns. She skimmed it and side seals weren't her strong suite. So she decided to keep on reading. Sasaki and Danzo talked for half an hour to an hour on various subjects ranging from governmental issues to networking within other villages. Note to self, next mission to Anagaker. Find more information on Hatoshi Sati. September 14. Sasaki poisoned sake stash. Got rid of stash and sealed it away. Stole more sake to replace poisoned sake. Tsunade twinge involuntary. Just the thought that someone had found her stash and had messed with it gave her the heebie-jeebies. September 18 was able to give away location of a would-be assignation attempt when Tsunade was at the grand opening for new factory. Mantoyo was able to come up with good enough alibi and escaped prosecution. September 21 disengaged bomb that was sent into mail and was carelessly put in the mail room below Hokage office. Note to self, dogs can get paper cuts. Double note, bombs are very touchy. Triple note, move mail room to a different vicinity if I ever become Hokage. The scroll went on and on about different notes. Naruto had even made a list of what each person that worked for Danzo did each day and night. For every day, he had everything down to their favorite food and color. I must say, his observatory skills have skyrocketed, thought dryly to herself. But she smiled inwardly. Naruto had done class of information gathering. Even she would not hope to do this without placing a person in danger. But Naruto could. I will have to use him for other missions I have in mind. Thumbed through more of the scroll, studying intently the information Naruto had gathered on the plant that was used to make her poison. If Naruto was master at sealing, she would be master at being able to figure out antidotes to anything. In her head already, she was putting together information to make a counter to this new poison. It could be very deadly. Sunyanade sighed, but she had more important work to do. Shizune, get me, Shikamaru, she said. Shun rushed off, and a few moments later, Shikamaru was in her office standing at attention. Shikamaru, put together a worthy team. You need to hit and sack whatever documents and papers you can get from these various locations. Be careful. Some of them are guarded by genjutsu and ambu guards. But Naruto was kind enough to supply all our answers. She handed him the scroll. Shikamaru studied it with a surprised look, then nodded. He left the office. Sunyanade leaned back in her chair and looked at the Hokage monument. You know, Yandami, you should be proud of your son. Even if he no longer has a human body, he still has his heart. And surprisingly, he finally got the brains. Shikamaru called together Neji, Lee, Sakura, Choji, Ino, and Sai. They formed ranks and were about to leave when Hinata and Tennant arrived. We're going with Shikamaru. Naruto did it for all of us. So all of us should do it for him. Shikamaru couldn't argue with them. Besides, they were right. But he wasn't about to let them know that. They ransacked the nearest location. This one was not guarded by people, but various traps. But thankfully, Nar put in detail how to get around each one. They took everything and sealed it away in scrolls. Then moved on to the next one and next one. There was 4 buildings in all. Only 2 had people in them. Shikamaru wasn't going to say it was a piece of cake. Some had slipped through their fingers and fled while others fought back hard. But the rookie 9 had the strength and anger to fight back. All in all, they did an okay job, but if it wasn't for Naruto's scroll and tips, they would have been beaten before they got to the 3rd hideout. The good news was they were able to capture Danzo. Sure, Sakura had to stitch Shikamaru up, but if Naruto could lay his life on the line, so could Shikamaru, even though he got severe verbal abuse by Sakura, Tenten, and basically everyone. They returned back to the hospital, and Sakura led them upstairs to a private wing, to a private room. There inside on the bed, an oxygen tube through his mouth, many different IVs coming out of his arms, and layers upon layers of wrappings around his chest and broken leg. Was Naruto still asleep? But a steady strong heartbeat emitted from the machine and Shikamaru couldn't describe it. But even though Naruto looked battered and beaten, he seemed to be stronger, at least in his mind. Sakura walked over silently to him, then leaned down and whispered, "We did it, Nar. We captured Danzo. So you sit back and rest. We got this. You're right. You leaving us did make us stronger." Then she kissed his forehead and walked out of the room. Hinata situated herself in a chair next to him. Shikamaru finally realized how tired he was and walked over to a chair and was asleep before he even sat down. Nar was lost in darkness, but he knew it was a good darkness. He felt relaxed and calm. Slowly, he began to hear the sounds of the real world filtering through his conscious. Nar creeped an eye open. The room was dim. Small rays of light from very early morning, however, peeked through the windows, illuminating it. And around the room, he could see several forms slumped next to each other or leaning against the wall. The room was filled with the sounds of soft snores. Nar looked to see that Neji, Shikamaru, Ino, Tenen, Ka, Sai, and Hinata, who was curled over his bed, were all there. Nar sighed. They all looked so very. Nar began to move, his limbs going slow, testing what exactly hurt. His entire chest and front leg were both completely bandaged. Nar looked around for his braces. They lie on the nearby bedside table. Nar yawned and started to rise. No pain at first, but a dull ache in his chest. He also discovered a sharp bolt of pain through his leg. When he tried to apply pressure, Naruto, keeping his injured leg off the ground, worked a blanket from beneath him and covered Hinata. He knew she had to be cold. Then he looked at the others. Ino looked a little cold as well, so he covered her. The rest had a lot of clothing or had blankets already. Nar then looked at Nae once more. Nar scanned the Nin's peaceful face thoughtfully. Then he remembered the caged bird seal. Nar quickly crossed the room to Sai's bag. He quietly riffled through it to find a blank scroll in ink. Once he had that, he sat down and began to write out the counter seal that he had created but never had time to do. He couldn't free the entire second branch like he had promised to Neji, but he would free Nae from his curse. It was tedious work, and the sun was rising fast. But Naruto did not notice. He was busy laying the last brush strokes down. It was almost complete. Another line of rites, a few more path symbolism, and it would be ready. Nar, however, was so into his work, he didn't hear some of the people in the room beginning to wake up. It was actually Shikamaru who awoke first. Shikamaru had first looked to the bed when he woke up. He had a brief rush of fear when he saw that the bed Naruto had been in was empty, but then he saw movement in the corner of his vision. He flickered his eyes towards the floor. There, Naruto was in a slightly odd position, holding his one front leg up off the ground. He was balancing on 3 paws while his tail dipped into an inkwell and began to write on an open scroll that lay before him. Shikamaru studied his work. It held many lines of intricate lettering and symbols. Naruto was completely captivated in his work, his eyes never leaving the paper. He worked with a complete disembodiment to the outside world. Shikamaru watched him for a bit. Then Naruto laid the final symbol. Naruto looked over his work, then nodded. He replaced the cap for the ink, then let the scroll dry a little. He yawned, then finally looked up. His eyes met Shikamaru's. Naruto nodded to him, then placed the tip of his tail to his mouth, then flickered an ear to the other sleeping forms as if to say, "Shush." Shikamaru nodded. Naruto jumped onto the bed. He winced slightly, but situated himself comfortably staring out at the sunrise. Shikamaru and him watched the sunrise in a respectful silence. Neither wanted to break the beauty and purity of it. Then, Ino decided to shift in her sleep. She ended up falling off of her chair, landing on Ten, who snapped awake and shot her arm out, effectively hitting Neji in an area lower than the stomach. Neji snapped awake and proceeded to clutch that which was harmed while kicking Sai in the process. Sai was kicked sideways and was now about to land on Naruto's scroll that he just finished. Naruto leapt from the bed and grabbed it. He regretted doing this for the pain which it caused with his teeth carrying it far away from harm. Naruto dropped it gently on the other side of the room before limping back. He glared at everyone who were accusing each other except for Neji. He couldn't talk at the moment. The bickering was loud enough to wake Hinata. Naruto sighed and leapt up onto his bed. No one noticed except for Hinata and Shikamaru. He barked once, twice, then when no one listened, he howled quiet. Everyone paused and looked at him. He sat and looked at Ino. "You ruined a perfectly good sunrise." Then turned to look out the window. Everyone else awkwardly looked out the window as well. They watched it silently until Naruto spoke. "Some things never change. Both a dog and a human can enjoy the sunrise and sunset. Both a dog and human can enjoy a bowl of ramen. Granted, a dog can't have it as often, but that way it makes the ramen even more rare and beautiful." He looked at them, and both a dog and human can still have their greatest friends on this earth. Then he grinned. "Anyway, sorry for yelling at you earlier." "Good morning," he said, tail wagging. Hinata yawned. "That's okay. Anyway, how are you?" Naruto stretched. "It hurts to put pressure on this leg and my chest aches a little. But the greatest pain is the fact I haven't had a bowl of ramen in almost a month. I am going to go crazy. Please, can I have some ramen?" "Hinata. Please, please, please," he said begging. Hinata laughed. "Well, one bowl won't hurt." Naruto did a backflip for joy. Booyah then landed on his good legs once again. He winced then said, "Remind me not to do that again." Hinata nodded. "Anyway," he said jumping up back on the bed. "How are you all feeling?" he said looking at them seriously. Shikamaru scratched his head. "It's weird the last time I saw you. You were." Nar finished the unfinished sentence. "Dead. I know. I remember that as well." He visibly shuddered. Then he shook his head. "Speaking of that, where is Sasaki? I almost had him a few more centimeters than it would have been him gasping for air, looking up into cold, merciless eyes." Nar growled with the thought. Hinata gulped. She shuddered. "The things he has witnessed," she thought to herself. "I am sorry. The council members have taken him to be treated. He has the Uchiha bloodline, but Danzo has been arrested and quite a few others. Your evidence scroll held a lot of good things," she said hoping to cheer him up. She continued. "We were able to infiltrate his hideouts. They too housed a lot of evidence. You did good," she said finally then asked, "When did you do all this anyway?" Nar smirked. "And you thought I was visiting lady friends. I must tell you though I haven't even laid an eye on a single poodle." Hinata laughed outright. Everyone else chuckled. "I'm sorry Naruto. He just thought and oh my god we were going to." She stopped herself and blushed. Naruto snickered. "Yeah, when I heard that conversation I was a lot more sneaky but not only did I go and keep tabs of Sasaki, I also trained and perfected that Sasanu sealing technique." Then Naruto bolted up. "Speaking of sealing," he exclaimed, startling the others. He ran to the scroll and picked it up and dragged it over. "When you were all sleeping, I created this for you Nae." He held a scroll in his jaw, then dropped it into the floor, rolling it open. "What is it?" Nae asked. "It's time the caged bird is let free," Nar said affirmatively. Neji's eyes widened. Knowing the meaning of those words, a hand went to his forehead. "It can't be." Nar nodded. "Luckily, I inherited more than my loudness and my ramen loving from my mother. I also have the Uzumaki trait of Fujutsu and sealing." He grinned wildly, then added. "And your seal is nothing but simple toddler work to me." Needy gulped. "But not even Anbu have been able to crack it." Nar scoffed. "Hello. You're speaking to an Uzumaki. Did I not just say that?" Nar unrolled the scroll. "Remove the hit I ate." Nei was about to win. Hinata said, "Wait, Nar, you should let your body heal." Nar sighed. "Oh, I have enough time to do that. Let's get this done with now. Besides, I love seals," he said, a happy light in his eyes. They admitted to the fact that he seemed to sometimes daydream about them. Neji undid his headband and gave it to Tenten to hold. Naruto ushered him to the middle of the floor. He made several clones. They each dipped a tail in the ink and began to write some stuff on the floor. Sai noticed it was his ink, but merely shrugged when he saw it. Nar and his clones finished. He was about to start when Shikamaru booted in. "How do you do jutsu?" Nar sighed and wiggled his ears. Shikamaru and everyone looked at him. "Wait, with your ears?" Nar growled in an aptness. "Yes, I figured it out. Okay, it's the only thing that works. My tail is not as flexible as it seems. And ears work perfectly." Ino stifled a snort. Naruto sighed. "Can I just get on with this or do you need to ruin this as well?" Ino shook her head. No, just go." Nar rolled his eyes and began. His eyes closed in concentration. Then an aura formed around him. It slowly built up in mass. It began to shift and form until it was an exact. Granted, it was made of chakra replica of his old body. The only thing that was different was that the eyes had no pupils and no whisker marks, just a chakra blue Naruto image. Neji stared into the eyes. The form drifted through the air to him. With each movement, the image blurred as if it was being blown by a strong wind. When it was in front of him, it reached out an arm. It touched his forehead. Nei felt as though his forehead was on fire, a small pinpoint that flared out, making the rest of his body numb with cold. A cold sweat broke out on him, his heartbeat wild, seeming to want to leap out of his chest. The chakra Naruto held up his other arm in the sign for chakra concentration. Then a burning went through Neji's entire being. Electricity seemed to shoot down his spine, pulsating. His body spasmed from it. Then, just as sudden as it started, it was over. A great relief overwhelmed him, as if he was burdened down with something for a very long time. Neji felt light and finally free. Nar stepped back from him and staggered. "That took more than I thought." Then he collapsed to the floor. Hinata rushed to his side. "Are you all right?" she exclaimed, worry knitting her brow. The others got up to help. Naruto sighed and motioned them to sit back down. He spoke to Hinata. "Me being all right depends. Do you have that ramen yet?" Hinata shook her head. "No," she said, confused. Nar then slumped down. "Then, no, I am not all right." Just then, Sakura entered the room. She held a silver metal tray in her hands. She looked at the bed, then to the floor where a large circle made entirely out of ink was, then to Nei, who had a removed headband, and unknown to him a smoking forehead. Then to Nar, who was on his side with Hinata next to him, looking wardly at him. Sakura calmly took all this and then set the tray down gently. She then turned. Already a deadly aura surrounded her. Naruto whimpered and tried to stand. Once he succeeded, he said, "Hello, Sakura-chan. And how lovely a day it is to be alive. And how lovely a day it is to be kind and forgiving to a person who just released a second branch Hyuga from their cage seal," he said, giving her a smile. Sakura's anger seemed to dissipate. She sighed. "I am sorry, Naruto. I just don't want you overexerting yourself. You don't have the Kobe to heal you now. Your body has too." She turned and picked something off the tray. It was a rather large needle. She turned back to him, her eyes staring at that needle. "Right now, it's time for your medicine." But when she looked at Nar was backing away, a wild fear in his eye. He whimpered, then said in a distant voice, "No, Sasaki, don't." The minute he saw that light gleam off of that metal tip, Nar was instantly haunted by memories that he swore he would never reave. But his mind broke his promise as the harrowing events unfolded once more. Sasaki, his friend and comrade whom he had trusted, was advancing on him, cornering him, holding that sword, ready to kill. Nar yelled and held at Sasaki, hoping he would listen, but all for naught. The blade kept getting closer and closer. Nar had to act quick. He had to defend himself. Nar then let out a low growl at Sakura. His eyes switching and glowing with a wild fright and anger. His fur bristled and his teeth gleaming and menacing were bared. His ears flipped backward. Nar looked like the complete embodiment of terror. Sakura shuddered and slowly lowered the needle behind her back. Naruto's eyes watched her. When the needle was gone, his fur and posture relaxed. His eyes blinked a couple times as he came back to the real world. He looked around at everyone gaped at him, their eyes fearful and confused. He staggered again. Hinata luckily caught him. By that time, Naruto was overrun with emotions. Anger at Sasaki, fear of what he just witnessed. Sickened by the fact he was about to hurt Sakura, but most importantly, it was the fact that everything hit him then. Like running into a brick wall, he was side-stuck with the true weight of what had happened to him, all he'd been through him, all that he had lost. Naruto never got to deal with his grief. Since the moment he had a new body, he had been running and plotting and planning. His mind had to be strong. He never let the emotions out. He bottled them up, kept inside. But now they resurfaced with a vengeance. He buried his head into Hinata's arms, making her hold him close. Then he wept. Hinata caught him as his entire body leaned against hers for support. Hinata remembered back to the funeral. Naruto was strong for her then. Now it was her turn to be strong for him. She held him and stroked his fur and made soothing sounds. Sakura put the needle back and walked over to them. She sat on the ground next to him. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, Nar said slightly muffled. It's okay. Neither did I. Nar whimpered slightly. I never got to deal with it. He paused to sniffle. You know, the betrayal and the fact that I can never have my dream, not in this form. He stopped talking for a bit, sobs taking him. I thought I could handle it. But I just avoided it, avoided thinking. I buried my grief and my sorrow of my failure and plunged myself into work. He said regrettably, his voice shook at the next part. I kept on thinking that the day I killed Sasaki, he said sharply. Then from then on, everything would be alright. Neji then spoke. Naruto, it's fine. Everyone makes mistakes at times. We all do. He continued, but you need to know something. You need to know that sometimes something are meant to be shared with others. No one person should bear a load they cannot. It's okay to ask for help, for support. You didn't need to do this, but then again, you did need to as well. You needed to know if you were strong enough to still do this, and for that, I thank you. Nei continued. I also want to say that if there is anyone who could convince Konoha that a talking wolf demon could be a hogue, it could be you. Nar smirked, then began to laugh. Thank you, Neji. Neji continued, plus, I mean, you also beat Shikamaru in shogi. Remembering the thought, Shikamaru piped up. Yeah, how were you able to do that? When I asked you to play it when you were a human, you said you had no idea. Naruto rose his head. Easy. I am smart enough to act like a fool, so no one requires me to do anything. 'Cause they think I can't do it that way. I was able to go eat ramen all the time. He grinned. So you see, I am a fool. Then again, I am a wise fool. 'Cause only a wise man is wise enough to act like fool to get out of things he doesn't want to do. Shikamaru looked at Naruto and Naruto looked at them. Then Shikamaru clasped his hands together and bowed. I am in the presence of the master. Nar bowed also. Of course you are. You just never realized it. Then Nar turned to Sakura. Sakura-chan. Please get me ramen. It's the only medicine I need besides you owe me for scaring me earlier. He said glaring at her. Sakura sighed, then giggled. She leaned down and ruffled his fur on his head and got up to go get ramen. The next few days were a haze for Nar. He could never leave the room. Nothing was ever good on TV. The only good thing to happen to him was when someone came in to visit him. Shikamaru came in quite a few times and played shogi with him. It relieved his boredom and so far Naruto was winning with a score of 5-3 games. But other than those few fleeting gains, the only thing he had left was severe hospital boredom. Finally, when Nar couldn't handle it no longer, he got off of his bed and went to the window. Opening it slowly, he stepped out. He kept an eye on the door, even though he knew the hospital rounds weren't for another 3 hours. Once he would out, he stood satisfied, breathing in the fresh air. He then limped off to town, trying to find something interesting to do. He went to the park. There are many kids that came up and played with him until they had to leave. Some people were nice and gave him bites of food from their lunches and picnics. Naruto was happy to be out and enjoying the outdoors. He enjoyed his time there but decided to leave. He walked down the street wondering what to do next. Then a group of girls caught his eye. All of them were dressed in the nurse outfits. Going to work, he thought to himself. He hobbled over to them. Excuse me, ladies, but do you need an escort to the hospital? The women looked around, then seen him. Whoa, you must be an Inazaka dog. I heard someone say that some of them can talk. One of the nurses exclaimed. Nar grinned that I can now a bunch of marvelous ladies like you shouldn't be walking about without someone to protect you. Trust me, he said walking closer to them. I am a finely tuned, beautiful, noble beast, but you can call me Fluffy. And yes, you have my permission to bow before me, he said, grinning mischievously. A few of the girls were blushing. The women laughed. Now, usually Nar never acted this way, but out of sheer boredom, sometimes a person will do the craziest things. Nar walked in the middle of the group while they chatted swoon about him, proclaiming how amazing and cool he was. Nar took in all the comments in stride and said yes to everything and kept telling them how beautiful they were. Soon they were in a hospital room, him lounging on the bed while all of them fawned over him and fed him tidbits. One girl was Mika. She had brown eyes and soft blue hair that was medium in length. So tell us more, Fluffy. Tell us about how you defeated the Great Bear. All the girls eagerly nodded. Nar smirked. What could he say? He was a natural storyteller. He learned how to do such things from Jiraiya. So there I was out in the middle of a blistering snowstorm making my way through drifts as tall as me when all of a sudden a great bear came roaring out of the snow. He said, jumping neat one of the others scaring her. He continued, it rose 14 feet tall and swung at me roaring its heart out. They gasped. Is that why you were in here? Asked one. Nar scoffed. TCH. No, I didn't even get a scratch with that overgrown furball. No, I am in here cause I took on an entire platoon of S-rank traitorous villains. I fought them off to the last stand. I was close to death, but I looked it straight in the eye and said, you can't have me yet. I have a team to save. And I broke death's grasp. And here I am talking to you pretty ladies. He said, smiling. Then a voice said, pretty ladies who need to start their shift. The girls gasped and looked up. It was Tsunade and Sakura. Behind them was Hinata. All of them had a biased look on their face. Naruto gulped. I will not live to hear the end of this. Then he smiled and spoke. Sorry ladies, but alas, you must help the blind, heal the sick, while I, Fluffy, must be put back in prison of a room. But I will not forget you, my beautiful flowers. Then he hopped down and nodded to them. All of them awed and hugged him or kissed his cheek or head as they scampered out past Sakura and Tsunade. Nar stepped out. Sakura and Tsunade looked at him. He looked at the ground. Tsunade rolled her eyes. You're another Jiraiya. You know that. Nar looked up, grinning. I can be whoever you want me to be. Swatted at him playfully. He dashed aside. She then started to speak, her eyes soft. Naruto, I know you have a lot of energy and can't wait to get out and enjoy life, but you have to face it. Healing takes longer for you now. Naruto sighed. You're right, but I did come back to the hospital and made a few friends myself, he said, grinning. You do know that they will never look at you as a boyfriend or anything. Sakura said. Naruto glowered. Yes, Sakura, I know. I was just having some fun. Then he muttered, which apparently is impossible in this hellhole. Looked at him questionably. What was that? Nar shied away. Nothing, he said, then went off back to his prison. A few days later, Nar got his bandages taken off his chest. The wound was healed over quite nicely. A few more days of putting a save on it, and it would be back to normal. Although he would always carry the scars beneath his fur, life got better for him, though. The 5 nurses he met always came into his room and gave him treats and tidbits. Hanging on to his every word and every story, though sometimes false with complete adoration. One day, Shikamaru, Neji, and Ka came in to see him. They were quite shocked to see him surrounded by girls feeding him and giving his claws a manicure. Shikamaru cleared his throat. Fluffy, we would come to see how are you doing. Nar grinned at them. I am surrounded by my fair maidens and getting handfed and having my claws taken care of. How are you? Shikamaru paused. We have further information on your enemy. Regarding his return, Naruto straightened up, then said, alas, my darlings, you will have to leave me for today. This requires a certain seriousness. Then one of the nurses, Mika, spoke. Can you tell us the story of this archenemy of yours sometime? Nar was looking off into the distance, then he said solemnly. No, it's too sad. A tale of betrayal, loss, and death. Not something you would want to hear, Mika. The 4 other girls and Mika left. Shikamaru closed the door. After Shikamaru told him what was going to be happening, Naruto sprang from his bed, his eyes smoldering in anger. What a trial! He exclaimed. They are actually going to ignore all my evidence and have a trial by jury. Nar growled and paced the floor on 3 legs, his tail swishing angrily. Nate, it's true, and it's because Tsunade couldn't tell the truth of who really got all the evidence. She can't say you as Fluffy did it. Or you as Nar did it. Cause technically you're dead. Naruto sighed. We're going to need a miracle. He sighed. Great. Now I need to study up on my Konohara. Guys, I have a favor for you to do. Shikamaru stood up. What is it? Nar grinned. I need you to come with me. I know place that has a lot of books about Konoha law. Nar jumped up and opened a window. Shikamaru looked at him. Where are we going? Nar grinned. To the 4th Hogue house. I have broken there several times. His study has the most awesome things in it. Shikamaru eyes widened. Are you sure? Naruto rolled his eyes. Come on. Technically, it's my house anyway, just not officially. And trust me, I have broken in 100 times. Would I lie? He said to the 3 of them. Each looked at each other, remembering the stories Nar had told the girls. Nar saw their looks. Well, to you guys, would I lie? Shikamaru sighed. Fine, but if we get caught, we're blaming it on you. Nar smirked. You have my word. Then they traveled off. Sakura stepped into Naruto's room. She looked up then proceeded to gape as it looked as though a tornado of papers and scrolls had swept through the room. Papers were everywhere. Shikamaru, Nei and Ka were reading some papers while Naruto was on his bed studying intently. A scroll unrolled before him. Nar then said, "Aha. LK 2345 Article 3 says that if any known person is believed to be planning or housing a person that is believed to be planning a rebellion against the Hokage or any governmental figurehead that said persons will be taken and withheld for 3 days." He took a deep breath then continued then will be given a trial to which the persons can defend themselves but then Nar opened another book. However, in this article added, when my father was Hokage clearly states that if there is enough concrete evidence and one valid witness, the trial is supposed to be skipped and proper punishments are to be distributed to the persons guilty of the charge. Nar growled and sighed. The council members are skipping their own laws they are supposed to be enforcing. Shikamaru rubbed his temples. You're right, but still, he said, holding a finger. A valid witness. I don't think that means a dog. Naruto looked thoughtfully at him. Or does it? Nar said then rushed to another pile. He dug through it some more. He then pulled out a small pamphlet. Here the definition for witness is any person or electrical device or proven blood trade ability. Naro smirked once again. They are not reading the lines in between the lines as Jarius said. Shikamaru looked at him. What does that mean? Nar smirked looking and seeing the truth in between the lines. It means they are interpreting the definitions their way. So we are going to interpret the definitions our way as well. Nei nodded. Excellent work Nar. Nar puffed his chest out slightly. Thanks. Then Shikamaru started. But remember guys, we have a lot on the line. Tsunade could get impeached for what she has done. Nar shook his head. Why? Shikamaru calmly said. Because she had us do an unauthorized sweep of the council property. The Andu route training lutuses and warehouses all belong to the council. Nar nodded because it was the council who made the Ambu, not the Hokage. Nar sighed. Right, I forgot about that. However, the Hokage can limit the numbers and have up to at least half of the people she or he wants within the core, but the council controls everything else. Nar growled, thus letting them slowly brainwash them to hate the Hokage. Shikamaru nodded. Exactly. Naruto then said, if only I could be Hokage, I would change so much of this greed and corruption. What would Dad say? He said out loud, but to no one in particular. But to each of them in the room at that moment, they saw beyond that proud exterior Naruto had put up. The strong willfulness to never give up and how he could laugh and joke even in this new form. But they all saw past that in that moment he was hurting inside. He was lost and sad. He seemed as though he couldn't take much more. To them, he suddenly looked vulnerable, as if he was about to blow away with the slightest breeze. Nar had always assured them he was watching for them and would keep them safe. But they realized that it was their time to watch for him. Keep him safe. Nar was trying so hard to be a leader and to keep them strong that he ended up betraying his own feelings. Bewilderment and fear. He had so much to live up to, and he had gotten it all taken away. A cold pit grew in Sakura's stomach. Sasaki had caused all of this. It was his fault Naruto was now reduced to this. She vowed that if Sasaki ever got anywhere near Nar, she would take him out herself. It didn't matter what Naruto thought. Nar needed to be protected, even if he didn't want it. The same was for Shikamaru Kiba and Neji. They too saw Naruto's pain and agony. His loss of a dream that had carried him so far. Now it could possibly never be. The inside turmoil he must be feeling has to be extreme. Shikamaru thought to himself. Shikamaru could only imagine. He clenched his fists at sudden anger that overtook him. How dare Sasaki do this? Shikamaru wanted to go and find Sasaki right now and knock his lights out. But Shikamaru caught himself. He remembered the way Naruto had stayed calm and composed throughout the entire ordeal. How he kept his head straight and never let his emotions get in the way. Damn it, Naruto. You really would be a great Hogue. Sure, I am smart, but I don't have the will you do or the ability to inspire people. You really are one of a kind. I just wish it hadn't been your dying for me to figure it out. Naruto sighed, not knowing of the resolutions his friends had made or the fact he had let them see his inner feelings. He then started to tidy up a bit. Shikamaru, Ka, Neji, and Sakura said goodbye and left. Sakura called the boys together in the hall. Okay, we need a Rookie 9 meeting. No sense. We have to talk about this pronto. Shikamaru and them nodded. Soon everyone was gathered. They chose Training Ground 7 for the meeting. Sakura stood on one of the logs that jutted from the ground. The very same on in fact Naruto was tied to all those years ago. Shikamaru was below her and leaning against the side. Everyone waited in silence. Sakura then spoke. Okay, we called this meeting to talk. Right now, I don't think it's the best time to tell our senseis. I mean, Guy and Kakashi are on a mission, thankfully. And Kine has a Sagi to look after. Shikamaru smirked at the mention of his godchild. We need to figure out a plan now. The circle was silent. Nar has paid a price no one on this earth has ever had. He has had to witness experiences no one like him should have witnessed. And are we just going to stand back and let him carry this burden by himself like he plans to? Ten yelled out. No. Sakura smirked. Shikamaru then began. Naruto thinks he has to be the one to protect us. It's just the way he is. He always cares for everyone else, even if that means pain onto him. Well, I think it's time we ease some of that pain. Shikamaru spoke, looking into each one's eyes. We are the Rookie Nine. We have survived countless attacks on our village and a fourth great war. Sure, I must admit, if it wasn't for Naruto, a lot of us wouldn't be standing here. But we have gotten smarter and stronger. It's time to show him that he can trust us with his life just like we trust him with ours. All of them stood in awe. Shikamaru was good at speeches. All of them cheered. Yeah. Agreeing with Shikamaru, Sakura came in again. No matter what happens in the future, we stick by Nar and follow his lead. If he comes through a bump in the road, we help him over it. We protect him now, not the other way around. Cause to me and I am sure to a lot of you he's already a Hokage in your mind. Shikamaru nodded and so did everyone else. Sakura jumped down, everyone hands together. All of them put their hands together clasping them. Ka had held on to Hinata strongly and looked into her eyes. It was then she knew that this man who stood beside her was a person she could see spending the rest of her life with. Sakura snapped Hinata from her thoughts. We are the Rookie Nine and we stick with each other no matter what. All of them nodded and looked to each other. For Naruto, Hinata said quietly. For Nar, the others answered. The past few days was very tedious and slightly boring for Shikamaru, Neji, Hinata, and Sakura. But to Nar, he was completely enthralled. He threw himself into the papers and scrolls. Indulging in the words like a fly indulges himself in maple syrup. Sometimes he rushed across the room and grabbed a scroll or paper or file ignoring the mini earthquake of scrolls and flying papers he would cause. Sometimes he would forget the others were in the room. Sometimes he would grab what they were reading and start studying it, muttering it to himself. All the while his tail was never be at rest. He wrote down notes while reading, switching from one paper to the next. The others would stop around sunset, but Nar would go until midnight or until Sakura made him sleep. Naruto's leg was getting stronger and he could put weight on it. But he still had a limp and any sudden sharp jerk made his ribs ache. But Nar continued his routine until he almost read and memorized every text within that room. Stopped by often. They sometimes spoke in law terms to each other discussing the best course of action. She would sometimes bring news of Sasaki. Next week Thursday, she finally said one day what? Naruto asked the trial. It's next week, Thursday. We should start compiling our resources and decide the course of action in the courtroom. Nar nodded. Your lawyer? He asked. Yamato, she said. Nar nodded. Good. And for them, smirked slightly. Danzo is going to represent him and Sasaki. Naruto smirked. Both of them knew representing yourself is basically saying, I am guilty and an idiot. But no matter the circumstance, they had to be prepared. Sununade's job was on the line and possibly the free will of Konoha as well. Soon Yamato joined their study sessions. Endlessly and tirelessly they worked and worked. But soon one day, Naruto finally said, we're ready. And it was a good thing because the next day was the trial. The entire room was packed. People were pushed and shoved into such tight places, it was like a can of sardines. Everyone wanted to be there. Who wouldn't? The last of the Uchiha and the previous Hokage accused of treason, theft, bribery, premeditated murder. The list went on almost endless where the crimes against the sovereignty. The judge residing over the trial was the crown judge himself, the top judge in all of Konoha. He went by the name of Toyo. He was a middle-aged man and looked as if he had spent too long in the libraries and catacombs of Konoha. His eyes rimmed by glasses and his skin a dry sullen pilar. His hair was slick and pulled back in a top knot, for his calling before being a judge was once a samurai, but he had given up his swords and now wielded a gavel with the same accuracy and pride. The jury sat patiently, waiting for the trial to proceed. Sununade, the plaintiff, was given her lawyer, who happened to be Yamato. Okay, I know the lawyer is not supposed to be involved with you in any way, but she's the Hokage. She knows everyone. And Sasaki and Danzo had Danzo representing them. Both parties could call upon only 3 witnesses. The bailiff then stood and the court went silent. Trial number 650A3. Lady Sununade, 5th Hokage vs Lord Danzo Hokage Temporary and Uchiha Sasaki. The court was so silent you would have heard a pin drop if one was dropped. Thankfully, one was not, and the silence instead was broken by Seitoyo clearing his throat. Is there an opening statement for either of the parties? He asked. Dunady raised her hand. Sato Toyo nodded to her. She rose and then said, I wish to say that if my leading skills are truly inadequate enough that some of you find fault enough in them to take my life, I apologize and will gladly step down if that is what you wish. There was a stir in the room as hushed whispers rose in the air like the cascades of 1,000 chirping crickets. One quick knock of the judge's gavel, and the court fell into a hush once more. Then Danzo rose to speak. I have served many years in Konoha, only looking out for the best Offsunade's welfare. I have never once thought of any ill will to her or her heir for the Hokage position, whoever that may be. And if there is some manner of trivial evidence that contradicts what I have said, then let the court realize the possibility that the evidence is falsely presented. There was another murmur through the court. The judge sighed and hit his gavel once more. He then said, very well. Both statements have been recorded. The jury would now like to call their first witness to the stand. Uchiha Sasaki. Sasaki stood slowly leaning on one crutch. He also had a bandage over his left cheek. They noted as he limped to the bailiff who presented him the law of Konoha. He then said, put your right hand on the sacred scroll of Kami. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you, Kami. Sasaki nodded and said, yes. The bailiff opened the door and let Sasaki in the small place next to the judge. Yamato got up, addressing the jury and everyone in the room. I hold in my hand this bag containing a sake bottle that was tampered with and poisoned, then placed in an area where the lady would find it. We have sent tests to be done on the contents of the bottle, and they have came back positive to a hybrid plant that we have confiscated within the confines of one of your so-called offices. He then took a breath. We have reason to believe that Uchiha Sasaki was the culprit behind the poisoning of this bottle and 5 others. He turned to Sasaki. Then we also have evidence that states you entered Lady Sununade's office and left the poison drinks behind. What do you say? Sasaki paused momentarily. I have only entered Lady Sununade's office to receive news of my missions. Yamato said nothing for a bit, taking the time to stare Sasaki down. Really? Because when a person enters Lady Sununade's office, there is a secretary who specializes in writing down a person's name and exact time they enter and leave the office. And on Thursday the 12th of September, it is stated that you entered her office at 3:23 page. Then at 3:26 p.m., both Sununade and Shizune had left, but you did not. In fact, you didn't leave until 3:36 p.m. Tell me, Sasaki, why were you in her office for an extra 10 minutes? To me, that seems the perfect amount of time to plant a sake stash and poison it. The jury members looked closer at Sasaki. A few eyes caught each other, thinking the exact same thing. Sasaki sat up straighter. Okay, yes, I stayed in her office, but only because she never dismissed me. I stayed thinking on whether I should wait for her or not. Then, I decided to leave. Some of the jury members nodded to that as well, thinking it was a very reasonable excuse. Yamato nodded as if agreeing with them. Yes, that is all just a noble waiting for her for so long, but how can you explain your fingerprints on almost every square inch of her office? Sasaki sighed. Well, I said I waited. I didn't say I waited patiently. I was curious to all that was in her office, so I decided to look around more closely. I put everything back and didn't try to open things I knew were not meant for me. Yamato went back to the desk and picked up a photo. This here is a photograph of Sununade's private safe in her office, he said, holding it for everyone to see. Then he showed it to each jury member and then the judge. As you can see, it was hidden underneath a large rug and barely noticeable unless someone is really looking for it. Upon the very edge, we found a partial fingerprint of Uchiha Sasaki. So tell me, Sasaki explained that he said, throwing the photo in front of Sasaki. Danzo rose saying objection your honor, but Seitoyo hit his gavel. Objection overruled. Please be seated. Sasaki said nothing for a bit then said okay, I admit I found the safe but I never opened it. I just touched it to see if it was real. Yamato then said how did you find the safe? Sake sighed. I thought I heard someone coming when I was behind the desk. I then ran but I tripped on the rug. It folded over enough for me to see it. Sasaki said quickly. Yamato took the photograph. A very likely story yet. I didn't say which edge the fingerprint was on. The fingerprint was found on the inside edge of the safe, but I believe we have heard enough. You may be seated. Sasaki rose and limped back over to Danzo and sat. Danzo glared at Yamato. Yamato just went back over and sat down next to Lady Sununade. Danzo then rose. I would like to call upon the first witness. A murmur arose in the room. No one could see anyone sitting behind Lady Sununade and Yumato, then grew in volume when they saw a white dog limping up to the main stand. The judge knocked his gavel a few times to silence the court. The bailiff looked down, then to the judge. He was silent for a moment, then he said, "Sir, is this even legal?" The judge looked thoughtful for a moment, then he responded. "The law does not say whether the witness has to be human or not." The bailiff nodded, then looked back down. State your name." He jumped a little when Nar said calmly, "Fluffy." The jury was in a flurry of whispers, and so was everyone else. The bailiff cleared his throat. "Fluffy, place your right paw on the scroll and repeat after me." The bailiff leaned down a bit so Naruto could reach. "Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you, Kami?" Nar nodded, saying, "I do." Danzo rose. Then he walked over to Nar. "Tell me, Fluffy, you must admit this entire predicament is quite odd." Nar shook his head. "I do not think so." "What makes you say that?" Danzo continued. "Well, it's not every day you see a talking dog. I mean, that is what you are, correct?" Naruto shook his head. "No, I am not a talking dog." Sat straighter in her seat. She shot a warning glance at him. "I am a talking wolf with a little fox mixed in." He then grinned. Danzo looked at the court then addressed him. "And where did you come from?" Nar sighed. "Well, when a mommy and daddy love each other very much." Danzo held his hand up. "No, not that. I mean, where did you live before you came here? And why did you come to Konoha in the first place?" Naruto sighed again. "I used to live with a very nice old man. He taught me much. He raised me and took care of me when the world had turned its back on me. Then he died, killed by strange people I did not know. I wandered lost and hungry. Then I came upon a great fight between many humans and other unnatural things I do not wish to name." Nar paused to look around the room. Everyone was listening to his story, completely enthralled with it. "I hid, for I was afraid. I could not understand why humans would do this to each other, why they hate others of their own kind so much." He paused and continued. "Then I found Hinata. She was different, kind, sweet, generous. I could see much of the nice old man in her. She has a good heart. She cares for things. She protects them and keeps them safe. I didn't want her to meet the same end that the old man did." He took a breath and met her eyes in the crowd. "So, I pledged myself to stay by her side and protect her. Her and everyone I see that has a good heart. And one of those people is your pack leader, Sununade. She is my leader as well. So, I have to protect her. That is why I am here." Danzo nodded. "Very well. But tell me, why do you think that Uchiha Sasaki is the one that is trying to hurt your pack leader?" Danzo said in mocking quotations. Naruto looked at Sasuke. "Because my instinct tells me he is dangerous. He is like a snake poised and deadly. Yet, he is also like a timid mouse as well. I am guessing then he is nothing but a rat. Dangerous when cornered, but too much of a coward to stand and fight." Danzo held up his hand. Now be easy. So, you're telling me and the jury that your reason for suspicion on Uchiha Sasaki is your instinct?" Nar shrugged, then nodded. "In a way," Danzo smirked. "Please elaborate." Nar closed his eyes and continued. "Well, it was back at that large battle when I was searching for a place to hide that I came across him, and some other human about his height. Only his pelt was bright yellow instead of black, and his eyes were like the sky or the water." Danzo's smile faded. The jewelryman and everyone moved closer to listen. Then one of them piped up. "Please continue, Fluffy." Nar glanced over at Sasaki. He was pale as a ghost. Nar took a deep breath. I watched them. They were different from the others. Instead of fighting, they sat and talked. I heard very little, for the wind carried it away, but by the posture of the yellow-pelted one, it was as if he was begging your Sasaki for something. It continued on for a bit, and then Naruto cut off. He calmed his breathing. "Come on, hold it together," he said to himself. He found Hinata's eyes. They held the strength he needed to say the next bit. "They fought then. I don't know why, but they did. The yellow-ped one didn't seem to want to attack, but Nar said, pointing to Sasaki. He did." Naruto looked around the room. Everyone's eyes bored into him. Some eyes already were looking at Sasaki with a malice and distrust. A bead of sweat fell of Danzo's face. It only took a few more moments, and then, with a flash, Sasaki pulled out something long and shiny. It gleamed like a fang in the sun. Then, faster than I could ever imagine, he attacked the yellow pelt. The yellow pelt did not react in time. And then I saw the entire shiny thing was in his chest, so far you could no longer see the shine. The yellow pelt stood for a moment longer. Then he sunk to the ground. They stared at each other for a bit. Then the great fox came. It roared in anger. I had never seen such a fox. It must have been the god of my mother's race. I don't know where it came from, but I just know it was powerful. Everyone in the room nodded. A few whispered harshly to each other. Nar paused, then said, yet still the yellow pelt lived on. I went closer since the god fox was gone, and still he spoke, how he would never forgive Sasaki. The yellow pelt sighed. Then, well, as we wolves put it, his spirit went into the everlasting hunt in the sky. Then there was a large commotion is what it looked like. Kakashi was being held back by Guy and Iruka. Kakashi swore and cursed and kept on trying to weave a jutsu. But Guy and Iruka dragged him out of the courtroom. The judge kept on pounding his gavel trying to get some order. Finally, he sighed and weaved his hands in a pattern and created that which was every judge's trump card to uncontrollable misbehavior in the court. A large hammer smashed to the ground, causing people to jump a few inches from their seats. He then stood and screamed, I will have order in this court. Oh, or else I will send every last one of you to jail for obstruction of peace. Everyone was silent as he climbed back down, fixed his robe, then turned to Nar. Very well, Fluffy. So, you say you witnessed this man murder someone in, how you say, cold blood. The yellow pelt did nothing to antagonize the fight. Nar nodded. Yes, he was very docile the entire time, as if he was trying to accomplish some greater task that was worth more than his life. The judge nodded. So naturally, you have to keep watch over your pack now that you knew he was untrustworthy. The attack on the yellow pelt. Well, by the way, it's not a pelt. Its hair we also call yellow blonde. And I do believe that this blonde's name was Nar. Nar nodded. Yes, this Naruto human Hinata sometimes mentions him. The judge nodded again. Yes. Anyway, back to my point. Danzo, you may be seated. I will further the investigation. Danzo went and sat down. Hateful eyes watched his every step. The judge turned to Nar. The attack on this Nar took place during war, which law stipulates is justified because during that time, Uchiha Sasaki was considered an enemy. However, if he has attacked someone in Konohana that he is reinstated as a ninja, then that is a different case altogether. He looked at Nar who nodded then spoke. Yes, he has attacked someone. I also have witnessed it. The court was a hush. He attempted to attack while she slept. Nar looked to the judge to see if he could continue. The judge nodded. Well, I was out on the prowl one night, not too long ago, actually, wandering the streets looking for something good to eat in the metal bins you humans have. When I smelled Sashake, I wanted to see what he was doing because my instinct told me something bad was going to happen. So, I followed him. He crept into Sununade's den. I watched from a window to see what he was doing, for I am not a human, and I maybe could have been overreacting, and this is a natural occurrence. Nar looked around once more. He then was holding a pillow above her. I could easily read from his posture and knew from his scent what he was up to. I howled hoping to scare him and Wakade, which did both. Then, in fear that Sasaki might find me, I ran back home. The judge nodded. Can you verify this account? She nodded. Do you have evidence of this account? Yamato rose and approached the bench. Yes, my honor. Here is a strand of hair that found in a window that looked to be pried open. We matched Sasake's DNA to it. The judge looked to the jury. The head jury member nodded. Then the judge rose. The jury will now retire to vote on the verdict. We ask that you remain seated and calm throughout the proceedings, whatever they may be. The judge then rose and led Nar out, who limped over Tasad's side. He looked at her and she at him. You did good, she whispered and Naruto glanced over at Sasaki. I hope you're right. After an hour of waiting, the jury filed out and the judge took his place. We find Sasaki guilty of all crimes. Then he paused and said, now circumstance says that the punishment is death, but due to the fact you are the last, there is another option. You would be placed in maximum security prison for 3 years as long as you do the following. 1. Declare intent of the possibility of rehabilitation, and 2. Marry the females the council has picked for you and show you are able to pass on the Uchiha bloodline. There was a heavy silence in the room as Sasaki looked at Danzo, then the judge. I will take the other option. I only did what Danzo said because he said he would kill me. Danzo planned everything, not me. Like he said, I'm not smart enough to think things all the way through. I act too much on emotion. Naruto had to admit Sasaki had an excellent point. Sasaki would never had thought of any of those plots and Sasaki actually did speak the truth. Danzo did say in a way he would kill Sasaki if he didn't join his side. Still, the fact of the matter was that Sasaki was once again being treated special. Once again, Nar felt slightly betrayed by the village he loved. They would always favor him. Of course, he was the last Uchiha, the only one who could breed the Sharingan, the most powerful blood trade in Konoha. The judge turned to address Danzo. Danzo, to you, on the other hand, we will show no mercy. Many fingers in past trials have always hinted towards you. You are guilty of all crimes put before you, and you will be given the death sentence. May the gods have mercy on your soul. Then he swung his gavel down where it actually splintered in two from the force. Danzo was in shock. However, before the jailers could step in to take him into custody, Danzo lunged at Sasaki. You little rat, I give you my protection, and this is how you repay me. Danzo slapped Sasaki across the face. The guard came in, but Danzo surprised everyone. He was able to grab one of the blades they held, and he wrestled with them before overpowering them in his rage. He turned around and then spotting Nar, his eyes went wild as he leapt desperately towards him. Nar tried to jump away, but his bandage got caught on a chair. Nar was able to dodge the first swing, but the second one was coming down fast, too fast. Leaping for her chair, and Yamato was flying through the seal marks, but it was not either of them who saved his life. Maybe Sasuke was just getting back at the blow Danzo had given him. Maybe he was just acting on impulse. But the fact of the matter was Sasaki barrel rolled into Danzo. They grappled on the floor. Sasaki in his weakened state was overpowered. Naruto broke loose of the chair. Here was his chance once more. He could attack and kill Sasaki or save Sasaki and get Danzo. He glanced quickly up and the words sprang out from the emblem on the wall. Justice overcomes all. Nar gritted his teeth and leapt. He smacked into Danzo, knocking the blade out of his hand. However, Nar overshot him, and both he and Danzo were sent flying from the force. Nar collided out of control against the judge's podium, and as he hit his back, the wood splintered. Nar saw fuzziness for a bit, but during those few moments, he once again found those pools of obsidian, Sasake's eyes. For the first time, they were not filled with malice or hate or stoic ego, but they instead stared back with thanks and an emotion he could not describe somewhere between sadness and guilt. Nar could not form words. Instead, he bowed his head. He was not ready to accept the fact that he had been cheated out of life. But for this moment, they had saved each other's lives. But Nar still held a resentment for him. Danzo was placed under arrest finally, and so was Sasaki. Both of them were lead out of the courtroom. Tsunade went over to help him, but Naruto right now didn't want any help. He shrugged it off and limped out. He passed Hinata and the others without a word. He traveled to a place he always went when he needed to cool down or just think, and here he sat looking at the sunset over Konoha. He knew the others had followed him. They stayed at a reserved distance and were silent, but he could tell they were worried about him. Finally, he sighed and nodded. Sometimes fights are not fair. Neither is war nor death because in the end life is not fair. He then turned to them. I am neither happy nor really angry about the outcome of today. If Pervy Sage ever did teach me something, it was to accept my failures as well as my wins with the same calm grace. He then looked over the sunset. 100 years from now, we will all be dead. And this trial will just be like as history. It will not affect the coming of the days or the tides of the sea. It will not alter the change of the seasons. Like it or not, we humans cannot change nature or earth. We are powerless to those forces. Someday, far from now, there will be no more ninjas or samurai. No more Uchiha or Uzumaki, Hyuga or Inazaka. Instead, we will all be dead, gone from this world, and only remembered in stories. Nar turned to them, a tear in his eye. But despite all of this, we still each have lives to live. And no matter what happens in them, we must learn to bear through it and keep going. 'Cause sooner or later, you will be able to see or be part of something beautiful and majestic. And that, my friends, is the real reason why we are on this earth. So we can become someone or something truly great. And that way we can live on forever. And if you keep thinking like this, you will never truly die. Hinata had a tear in her eye. And Naruto, that was beautiful. Nar smirked. Now, Hinata, don't think I suddenly got all poetic. I read something like that in a fortune cookie once, he grinned. Well, actually, I did think of it here on the spot, but that would be a really good fortune cookie, don't you think? He then wagged his tail and turned to look at the sunset. Now, see, didn't I say it was a beautiful? Nar was cut off as he disappeared over the side of the cliff. You could hear a frightened howl. Sakura screamed and ran to the edge. So did everyone else, dreading the worst. All of them felt like complete idiots. Naruto sat on a little alcove, grinning up at them. Ha, you fell for it just like old Third did. Man, the look on your face is classic. Now Sakura, don't give me that face. What did I just say? You have to learn to look on the brighter side of life. Nar hopped up only to be given the worst noogie he could imagine. Oh no. Ah, okay. I give. Nar jumped from her arms and rubbed his head with a paw. Thanks a lot, he muttered. Nar then looked once more over Konoha when he spotted a place he had not been to for a very long time. Hey, you guys doing anything? Shikamaru shrugged. Not really. Why? Nar gulped. Because I want to go somewhere and I am afraid to go myself. Sakura giggled. Nar, where on earth could you possibly be scared to go? Nar then calmly said, my grave. There was a stunned silence. Then Hinata spoke. Are you sure? Nar nodded. I have to. I have to face it. My fear. It's something I have to do, but I just don't know if I can do it alone. Sakura nodded. Yeah, we'll go with you, all of us. They traveled through the streets until they came to the main gate for the cemetery. Nar gulped and stepped on that ground. All around him, he knew deep down there were bodies buried. The souls in them were lucky. They were able to leave Earth and go to heaven. But not him. No, he was cursed. He paused, a cold sweat breaking out. No, can't back out. Must keep going. He opened his eyes and shakily kept on walking. To him, it was like walking through a boggy swamp or up a mountain. The weight of fear and emotions that ran through him weighed him down and slowed him. It was only when he looked to see his friends giving him comfort, was he able to keep going. Finally, he found the right row, all newly dug and fresh graves. He knew he would be towards the end, as if it was alphabetically aligned. Naruto walked, his mouth dry. He panted for air. His entire body shook with fear, and he whimpered when he could see the end of the line. His was 5 from the end, only 2 more graves to pass. Nar slowed to a halt, only 1 more away. Then he took 1 step and another. Finally, he was in front of it. He looked to the ground before looking up. His eyes traveled slowly as they finally read the words. Utsuaki. Nar, the one who kept a dream alive. Nar doubled over as if someone had punched him in the gut. He gasped as he started to hyperventilate. His name would always be etched here. The world would always say he was dead. They would mention him less and less and all but forget him as they moved on to bigger and better things. No use focusing on the past, right? No, it couldn't be. He didn't want to die. He never wanted to die. Why was he buried while he was still alive? The inside turmoil was too much. No, I didn't want to die. I am cowardly. I was afraid. So very afraid. I was so cold and numb. I couldn't do a thing. No matter how much I wanted to live, no matter how much I willed myself to breathe, my heart to beat, my limbs to move, no matter how many times I remembered my dream, I still died. He collapsed and buried his head in his paws. Why must they mock me? No matter how much I tell myself that I am lucky for a chance at life, I still must be reminded that I once had a better one. A life with a future. Not just a life filled with people treating me like a pet and thinking I am just some stupid mutt. I am more than that. I am Uzumaki Nar. At least I think I am. Or was I? Hinata leaned down. It doesn't matter what you look like on the outside. Nar, you will always be you no matter what you look like. Nar looked up to her. But what of my dream? Hinata sighed. You never know. Someday Konoha will look to you for guidance. I mean, we all look to you for that right now. Your leadership skills should spread to others, and everyone will see you in the light we always have. Nar glanced at her, then nodded, still shaking but breathing regular. And don't worry, we won't treat you like a pet. Nar nodded. Well, it's okay. Sometimes I like being pampered. It's just I do still think of myself as a human sometimes. Hinata nodded. I understand, but you do have to face it. You're like this, so embrace what life gave you and look on the bright side of it. Nar smirked. I see I have rubbed off on you. That is good. Hinata grinned. Well, of course, you saved me from myself. No one will ever be quite like you, Nar. Hinata said this loudly and happily. Then from out of the blue, a stricken voice said, did you just call him Nar? They all turned to see Kakashi standing dumbstruck. So was Guy. No one said a word. Naruto rose. A new fear welled in his chest. Kakashi's eyes looked haunted and confused like little was keeping him here. He gulped. You heard correct. Kakashi-sensei. Nar only said that. And Kakashi thudded to his knees. Guy, please tell me I am drunk and hallucinating because that dog just said it was Nar. Guy looked at him. Kakashi, you're not drunk. Nar stepped forward. I kept it a secret. I wanted you to deal with it, and I tried to help you when I could, but I had to make sure not to give too much away. It hurt to see you, Kakashi, my teacher, the one who taught me to stay strong and to never be ruled by emotions, lest you become helpless. He paused, but I had to stick with my revenge. I wanted to protect you all. It was complicated and hurtful to all of you lying like that. But I had to for the better of Konoha. I am sorry Kakashi. I know I hurt you the most, but please believe me. I am Nar. You did not lose me. You still have much in this world. Kakashi said not a word. Then he reached out and laid a soft hand on Naruto's head, then ruffled the hair. Nar growled and brought his head away. Would you stop doing that, you weird perv? Kakashi then made a noise that turned out to be a laugh, a loud, happy one. It is you. Only Nar would have that reaction. He then quickly brought Nar into a hug, a tight one in which Naruto could not breathe. Naruto, I am never letting you go ever again. Kakashi said, I have lost too many comrades. Never do this to me. Nar wed, got it. Lesson learned. Can't breath. Please let me go. Kakashi dropped him. Thank you. Now you know what you could do for me, Kakashi. Nar asked. What? He answered. You can treat me to some ramen. It's been a while. Nar then trotted away, tail wagging. Kakashi was stood watching for a moment. Then he shrugged and rubbed his head. I guess he's the same after all. Then all of them followed him to Ikuruka Ramen's. Afterwards, Nar glanced at the moon. Then he thought, so 3 more years. Sasaki. 6 months later, Naruto sat proudly as he watched his sensei Kakashi take the stage fully garbed in the Hokage uniform. Tsunade sat in a chair behind Kakashi, smiling happily, and Nar even detected a little moisture in her eyes. Kakashi was hailed with applause and cheers, even a few wolf whistles from old friends and comrades of his. Kakashi did the usual speech all Hokage had to give, and then the usual proceedings followed afterward. Soon it was over and done with and all of them got to go up to Kakashi in private to congratulate him. There was a silence as Kakashi looked down at him. Nar, you should have been the one who replaced Tsunade, not me. Nar rolled his eyes. Come on, Kakashi. Some of them are still against me going on solo missions by myself, not to mention all the scrutiny I am getting for applying to. He stopped himself. Ah, never mind. Hinata looked at him. What is it? What did you apply to? Nar looked everywhere instead of her eyes. Well, UKW how they changed the Ambu, so now they're an elite ninja rank like the best of the best and they have good pay. Note in this fanfic Ambu before they were thought to be a shady group, Naruto said, hinting to them. Then he continued on confessing the small secret he had kept since he was a kid. And I always told myself, even when I was human, that if I didn't make Hokage, I would make Anbu, and not just any Anbu, the Anbu general, top leader of all Anu. In some cases, he even outranks the Hokage, he said excitedly. Hinata sighed and Shikamaru said. Oof. Nar stopped it with the tail. Nar stopped wagging his tail. He didn't even know he had started wagging. Kakashi looked at him. You really have thought things out, did you? Even when you were a human. Nar grinned. Of course, what did you guys think? I only thought of ramen and rescuing. He trailed off there. Then he sighed and looked away. Well, if you really thought I did think of only that, you were wrong. I was always thinking of how my life would be. He looked back up and smiled softly. But come on, it's time to be happy. You're the Hokage. Aren't you going to be happy? Oh, and by the way, you're going to have to be on time now, Kakashi. Kakashi sighed. I know, he said disdainfully as if he was dreading it. Naruto laughed. Let's celebrate. And before you even say it, I am not thinking of Ikuruka Ramen. I have a more elegant place in mind. He then led them to a place called the Howling Wolf. All of them looked at him. Are you kidding me? Nar shrugged. What? Okay, look. They're a 5-star restaurant and club and grilled together in one, and they allow pets. Nar grinned and started to smooth his ever unruly wolf fur. Hinata sighed. Nar, you're not going to get it like that. So, she bent down and started to comb him with the comb she always carried. Now, let me fix your hit I ate. She straightened it. What do you think? He said, prancing around like a show dog. Do I look good or do I look great? Ka laughed. Oh, yeah. The poodles will be all over you. Naruto's high trot he had going fell apart. What pea poodles? What are you? Why would you? Ka, you are weird. Then he proceeded to growl at all of them who were laughing so hard. Even Hinata was hiding her chuckling as she blushed red. Nar sighed and sat down. I am going to chew all your shoes when I get home. Nar muttered under his breath. Ka then said, do that and I will have Hana fix you. Nar yelled and tucked his tail in between his legs. Why? You wouldn't dare, would you, Hinata? Would he? Hinata sighed and glared at Ka, hitting him in the arm. No, he wouldn't, right, Ka? Ka looked away and said, yeah, I won't fix you or have Hana do it either. Hinata nodded. Very well. Now, let's go eat. They got a few tables together, and all of them sat down to eat. Sakura sat next to Hinata and Ka. And on the other side of the table sat Choji, Shikamaru, and Ino. Guy, Lee, Nei, and Tenon sat next to Kakashi, and Naruto sat next to the table. Of course, every child in the restaurant fell in love with him and came over to pet him or give him treats. Sakura and Hinata watched what he ate like hawks, trying to monitor his health had proven to be their #1 priority since he had revealed himself. Sakura's voice once again cut through the air. Fluffy, no, you can't have that. Nar regrettably relinquished the chocolate candy once more. He laid down and sighed. The waitress came and took everyone's order, but stopped to cuddle Naruto and give him a few dog treats. He took them at once, but when she was away, spat them out. I hate begging strips. The dog treat kind, he said. Hinata chuckled at this. Halfway through the other's meal, Naruto was already done with his boneless chicken. A child came by and gave him a rib. Naruto couldn't help but gulp it down. That proved to be bad decision. It got stuck at an angle where he could still breathe, but it felt as though it was trying to rip through his throat. He coughed several times, the pain bringing tears to his eyes. The frightened child ran away to his parents. Nar hacked until Hinata noticed him and freaked Fluffy. What's wrong? Nar finally choked out. Bone stuck. Ka was at his side in an instant. He had on many occasions dislodged bones from Akamaru's throat. He slanted Naruto's head and told Hinata to hold it at that angle. Then Ka hit Nar. This caused the bone to loosen and it shot out of his mouth to land on the floor. Nar was relieved and collapsed in a daze. Hinata scrunched her nose at the bone that looked so very gross on the floor. Are you okay? She asked softly as Naruto coughed a couple more times because of the irritation in his throat. Yes, he croaked. Soon, two people, a man and women, walked over with the teary-eyed child. We are so sorry. Is he okay? Hinata nodded. Just a little dazed, but he will be okay. The child sniffed. I didn't mean to hurt him. Hinata smiled at the little boy. No, it's okay. Just next time, ask first if it's okay to feed him stuff. Nar rose and booted his head playfully into the child's side. He then bent his front over and wagged his tail, meaning he wanted to play. He ran around the now laughing child. The boy was small compared to Nar, but the boy was not afraid of him. He hugged Nar as Nar licked his face and panted like a dog would. The couple apologized once more and thanked them for being so calm. But before they left, the boy asked his parents for a dog. I don't know, the mother said, but the boys begged. Please. Oh, please. I want one like Fluffy, big and fluffy. The father then asked Hinata, this is probably a little inconsiderate of us, but does this dog by any chance have any offspring? Nar broke into another fit of coughs, and Hinata blinked a couple times. No, he's not of age yet. Nar stood shocked at what was going on. Well, are you going to breed him by any chance? The women asked. Ka then booted in. Well, you see, he's a special dog, and Inazaka we're still training him, and we only pick certain ones to breed. The pups this one might have would probably not for commercial sale use. You should try Hana's Animal Rescue. They have many good dogs and pets for good homes. Try their. Ka gave him his sister's business card. They thanked them once more and continued on. Nar slunk under the table to hide from embarrassment and to hide from Sakura. He didn't want to hear it. Finally, as all of them sat down to finish their meals, Naruto muttered just loud enough so they could hear. They wanted to buy one of my kids, he said questioningly. Ka dropped his chopsticks and then put his head down. Giggles could be heard. Hinata was turning red and Nei was covering his face with a hand. Kakashi was chuckling and Sakura was trying and failing to drink while snorting. The Ino snorted, sounding very much like an excited pig. And all of them burst out in laughter. Not just any laughter. I mean tears in the eyes. Oh God, my ribs heart. Suffocating laughter. Needless to say, Naruto was quite embarrassed during the walk home. 3 days later, Naruto was summoned to the Hogue's office. Naruto went in thinking he had a mission, but only to find that instead of Kakashi in the office, it was a man in ambu robes. He wore a mask that had 2 curves representing tusks with angry red lines around the eyes, and he stood with his hands held behind his back. There was a silence, then the man spoke in a deep voice, but with a hint of age in it. Fluffy, the man questioned, and Naruto nodded. I am Mammoth. I have reviewed your request to be admitted into ambu or training. At first, I was hesitant, so I looked up your known stats. They were quite impressive. There are very few wild demons left. He said with no emotion in his voice. Nar nodded and he continued. But I have questioned many trusted sources of mine and each one say the same thing, that you are a hardworking, strong, sharp, talented being and above all the most loyal and trustworthy. Many trust their lives with you and these are the makings we are looking for. So it is with my authority that I and the entire ambu corps accept you as one of the few acceptable candidates. Naruto's chest swelled with pride. He couldn't believe it. He had been accepted. He, a wolf demon known only as Fluffy, had been accepted in. The man continued. But don't think you're an ambu yet. You are merely a trainee, one of 30 to be exact. You have yet to pass training camp, each and test we give you, and then the final exam before you can enter the ranks and earn your mask. Mammoth said, pointing to his face. Nar nodded. Mammoth stepped forward and placed a scroll, a gray cloak, armoires, and a vest on the desk. These are your trainee clothes. Get them fitted and study this here, he said, pointing to the scroll. And say goodbye to whoever you have to, cuz tomorrow at 6 o'clock sharp, you and the others will be in this office dressed and ready to go. You have no need to pack anything, but if you wish to take a picture or a small memento of home, you may do so. Nar nodded and took his things. He ran all the way home. He and Hinata quickly fitted the clothing until the cloak and guards fit perfectly to work on his body. Then he opened the scroll. It stated the following. Welcome, newest Anbu recruit. You have been given this scroll of information to make your training easier to understand. That is, Anbu boot camp will last exactly 3 months. And during that time, you will reside in the barracks. You will have no contact with anyone outside the Anbu. You will be fed 3 times a day. There are no fees. There will be 3 final written exams and 3 final field exams, then 1 final test overall. Be prepared. This is hard grisly work. You are training to become the village's elite, the best of the best. We will throw everything at you, and if you die, which several have, we will just move on to the next recruit. There will be no weaklings among us. If you have changed your mind, do not appear at the given meeting point. These are the fields of study you will be training and tested on. Enjutsu, Genjutsu, Taijutsu. Long-range heavy weaponry, short-range heavy weaponry, long-range artillery, short-range artillery, geography, humanities, political science, leadership skills, sealing techniques, tracking, teleportation, traps, defensive maneuvers, offensive maneuvers, elemental affinities, jutsu creation, advanced human anatomy study, spying, assignation training methods, camouflage, poisons, and antidotes, combat skills, documentation, forgery, projectile weapons, and battle strategies, and explosives. The list seemed endless to Nar, but he gritted his teeth and said to himself, I will not back down. I can do this. Then he cleaned up his room, went out to say farewell to his many friends, and finally laid down, both dreading and anticipating the next day. Naruto woke up at 5:30. He put everything on, and rushed to the tower. He was one of the first few gathered, but no one paid any attention. Everyone was too caught up on nerves to do anything. They fidgeted nervously. Some like Naruto remained calm and kept their nerves together. Others did not. There was a few females in the room, but other than that, it was all men and one demon wolf. Suddenly, Mammoth appeared with 4 other Ambu. They separated those gathered into 4 groups. Then, they had them follow them to the training barracks. They were the only trainees. They got themselves situated in their rooms. Then the rules were spoken and they were off to their first lesson. The Anbu followed them around for the first week, showing them where to go, then left them to fend for themselves. Naruto felt good about himself. He had proven he belonged. Few bothered him about him being there, but there was still some at the feeding times that did. Mammoth read the transcripts of the first of the written exams. It was for sailing technique, a subject he himself still struggled with, and apparently everyone else did except for 3. At the top of that, here was Fluffy with a perfect score. Then came the exams for each of the weaponry exams combined into one. Fluffy was the top, but one of the top 10. He always was top 10. In any exam, he amazed everyone by how he was able to make anything adapted to him as though he was a human. It was an eerily resemblance. But Mammoth took it as a challenge. He wanted to see how far he could bend him till he broke. He wanted to see what type of character this Fluffy was. But unknown to Mammoth, he would find that Naruto would bend but never break. 3 months later, Mammoth was the 6th head Ambu general. And one of the duties of head general was to access the newest recruits in the training corps. And one of those new recruits had much interest going about. His name was Fluffy, and he was believed to be a wolf-fox demon. He was skilled and intelligent. His written exams had proved that. Mammoth himself on the inside was rooting for him and was impressed with how he seemed to show more dedication and heart than all the recruits put together. All 30 applicants stood in 3 straight rows of 10. Cuz 3*10 equals 30 XD. As Mammoth entered the room, he paced the ground in front of them. Fluffy was in the first row, his shoulders were back, his head high, and his ears forward. His eyes never moved. He looked like a proud statue of a wolf. Mammoth smirked beneath his mask before removing it. No one in the room said a thing, but he could see many backs and bodies jerk with sudden surprise. A few even turned their heads to the side, trying looking at each other, but not Fluffy. He remained apathetic. But still, Nar couldn't help but study the face before him. Mammoth had deep memorizing eyes. It was as if you were looking into the eyes of a great beast. His face had 3 scars running across. His brown hair with a few streaks of gray was plaited back. His face showed his character. Strong, proud, willing to fight, a true leader, but his face also betrayed him. It shone the beginnings of older age. Yet still, the way his eyes studied them made even Naruto lower his gaze slightly. Mammoth enjoyed the tight tension in the room. To him, men standing at attention with their backs aching and their body physically pushed to its limits while the mind was constantly trying to maintain the composure was a very entertaining thing to watch. But today was not the day for entertainment. He cleared his throat. Today is the day we weed out the strong from the weak. You will be separated into groups of 5. Each group member will have a leader randomly picked from it. If you are the leader, you have absolute control. You decide what the group will do. This will let us see who has good abilities to lead and who has good abilities to follow. He turned and walked over to 3 tables set up. Each group will be given the usual rations, no more and no less. Each group will have the same number of projectile weapons. Each group is equal. The only thing that groups will be different on is each individual group member's ability, for that is something we cannot control. I added this part in case they have a blood trait I want to add in randomly on the spot. He turned back to the waiting men and few women. The test is simple. You each will be placed unconscious and we shall drop you off in a hostile environment. With these fake intelligence papers, each dossier is unique to each group and will be marked as so. That way, if any of you try to steal another group's file and pass it off as your own, we'll know. He swept his gaze across all standing there, levering them with it. This test is made to reenact a mission in all possibilities. You will be in an environment not known to you, living and working with people you may not necessarily like. And it shows how much dedication, hard work, and blood you will be putting into each mission. And how to cope or keep going if you lose a member of your team, because I will confirm the rumors. Several have died on this test. He paused, then letting it sink in. Then he grinned coldly. In the back, he seen a man twitch. He stepped forward. Where you shall be placed is several small villages, more like wandering tribes of assassins and bandits more than anything. And let's just say they don't take kindly to strangers. In fact, you could even say that a little birdie gave them a heads up that some unknown ninja are going to be in their territory, stirring up trouble. You could even say that this birdie may have said it would be willing to pay a large sum of money for each head. He smiled again, but that's just the gossip talking. Then again, birdies never lie. He left them with that and then turned to Mouse, his office assistant. You know what to do. Then he left the room, but not before looking back at a certain 4-legged trainee, who also was glancing over at him with the corner of his eye. Nar was put in a group of trainees who he knew very little about. 2 of them he had weapons training with, so was on good terms with, one who was made their leader. He actually shared a bunk house with their group, also had one of the 6 female trainees as well. They all studied each other for a moment. The large man named Ano stared down his nose at him. Nar knew he would have problems with this one. Goa was next. He was neutral, neither resentful, not supporting of Naruto on his team. Then there was the women. I knew. She looked at him with interest and a small fraction of amusement. Then last but not least, their fearless leader was Toei. His eyes were wide as they quickly glanced at each person. Nar sighed on the inside, then said, well, from what I know, when you are going to work with new people, you start out with introductions. I will start. Nar cleared his throat. My name is Fluffy. My human companion is Hinata Hyuga. I specialize in tracking, information gathering, fighting, both offensive and defensive, and sealing technique. My favorite food is tacos and ramen, and my hobbies include playing fetch, watching TV, and playing shogi. They stared at him for a bit. He then sighed. Also, I would like to mention that just because I am a demon does not mean I have special powers. I can only talk and have use of my own chakra system, which is far greater in quantity than any of yours. He stated matter of fact like. Then Anu spoke. She had long black hair put up in a bun with sunbon holding it. Her mask was hiding her face. I am Toroyomi Anu. I specialize in genjutsu, poison, and camouflage. I am an offensive type. My favorite food is rice balls. My hobbies include dancing and shopping. Toei then started. His voice was slightly shaky. My name is Monaco Toy. I specialize in hand-to-hand combat and trap detection. I prefer defensive fighting. My favorite food is pizza and red beans. My hobbies are going to movies and drinking with my buddies. Goa snorted. Then said gruff, but in a kind voice. My name is Zurich Goza. I specialize in documentation, forgery, battle strategy, and long-range projectile weapons, he said, then added. I prefer to be attacking than sitting idle. I like all food, he said, patting his rather large abdomen. And my hobbies include bird watching and going out with interesting women, he said, scooting closer to Anu and putting an arm around her. She looked at him, then grabbed his arm and stiffly pushed it off of her shoulders. In a rough, almost bored voice, Ano said, I am Yakushino. I specialize in taijutsu, explosives, and geography. I attack first always, he said, glancing down at Nar in a challenge. I like meat. Any meat will do. As long as it is an animal and is cooked, I will eat it. He said, a hint of amusement in his voice aimed at Nar. Nar said nothing. He crossed his arms, then said, my hobbies include weightlifting and grilling. He said, then stopped looking at Nar. There was a tense tension in the circle as each one beside Naruto and Ano looked at them both then to each other. Naruto took a breath then said with a bored expression, that is very interesting, Ano. I too like to eat meat. In fact, I like it so much that my kind will hunt in packs and take down animals. Then we will eat the meat right there without cooking it. It's better that way. All bloody and juicy, he said, grinning, showing of his canines. Anu made a small chuckling sound and Goza snorted a few times, but Toei glanced hurriedly between him and Ano. Ano said nothing, then straightened himself grumpily. Whatever, he said. There was a silence over them for a few moments. Then Naruto sighed and said, look, I know you don't like me or you don't like the idea of me. Whatever, I get it. But the fact is for either of us to make it to Anbu. In fact, any of us, we have to work as a team and trust each other. Like it or not, we are all each other has to survive this. Anu nodded then said, Fluffy is right, Ano. If you really want to be the Anbu you're always bragging you are going to be, you're going to have to learn to work together. Ano muttered under his breath for a few moments, then said, I get it, but I thought Anbu were lone rues, not depending on anyone. No feelings, just hardcore killers. Naruto shook his head. You will find those type of people in prisons. Ano snapped at him. Look, just because I am teamed up with you and have to work with you. You stupid mud doesn't make it all right to talk to me like you're a human. Ano growled at him. A few groups were looking their way. Nar could also see tension in a few other groups as well. Nar said shook his head and remained silent. A few minutes passed by of them saying nothing. Then Toy said, let's go get our supplies and get this over with. Ano stopped away, shouldering past Toy. The rest followed. Anu whispered to Nar, it's okay, I trust you, and so does Goza. Goa nodded and the three of them together trailed after Ano and Toy. Once they had gotten the supplies they needed, each group was led separately into rooms. When Naruto turned to ask what was happening, he saw a flicker of movement, then a sharp pain in his neck. Then he saw a blackness as he fell into unconsciousness. Naruto was drifting between consciousness and unconsciousness. He both wanted and didn't want to wake up. Nar realized it was nice to just stay here in the black. No more pain, no more worries, no responsibilities, and no more memories. It was a great but terrible beauty. It reminded him of being dead. The moment he thought that, memories suddenly opened and poured through. He had to wake up. Being like this was nice, but nothing could beat being alive. Even if in a world with pain and suffering, one would be able to have choices and create happiness when they were alive. And that he believed was the greatest feeling to have. Nar snapped his eyes open. He was on his side surrounded tall grass. He sat up and looked around, testing the air, searching for any danger. There was none. Instead, he found his comrades on their sides in the grass around him. He decided to leave them like they were for a bit, then wandered, trying to figure out where he was. He looked out. They were in a hilly, almost steppe-like country. Instantly, Naruto thought of his geography class. He scented the air, finding it had a mineral-like scent to it. This meant that there was red clay soil nearby, which meant there were mines. This led to the conclusion that they were probably somewhere within the Land of Iron. The Land of Iron was a land far northwest in the Earth country. The people here were rugged and dangerous. Generations of working minds had bred them into a sturdy, strong, earth-smart people. They hated anyone on their lands because they believed people were stealing their precious minerals. So they started to form bands during the autumn and winter months when the mines were closed. Naruto sighed this was going to be one long test. He heard the sounds of people waking up so he turned and looked. Anu sat up holding her head. She looked around and spotted him. She wobbled to her feet. She had no trainee mask. Nar looked none of them did. He noticed then that her hair was a blonde and was wrapped in a low ponytail. Her eyes were a deep green. She had an angular face. Naruto thought to himself that if he were a human, he would go out with her. Then he remembered he was not human and she was at least 30. She walked over to him. Well, what is the news? He looked back out over the land. We are somewhere in the Land of Iron in Earth country. She blinked and looked at him. How can you tell? He looked at her. Did you know a wolf's nose can smell 100 times better than a human's? When the rest had finally woken up, they all sat in a circle. Goza drew a small map in the dirt with a stick. So, we are presumably here, he said, pointing to one large blob. Konoha is here, he said pointing to the other large blob. But no matter what, we have to head southeast, he said affirmatively. Then he looked up to the darkening sky. I can't tell our position until the stars appear. There was a silence. And then Toy finally said, "We should find a place to camp and stay there tonight and head out in the morning." Nar nodded. Over in those trees would be an excellent place for cover. Aino looked at him. But what if we are found? Is it such a good idea to be limiting our environment to fight in such a tight place? Nar shook his head. Even if the locals are on the hunt for us, they would not enter the woods at night. We have superstitions legends to thank for that. Inu looked at him. What do you mean? Naruto sighed. In the study hour we had or the days off, I was in the library reading up on legends and superstition of many different lands in case I ever needed to use the information to save myself. Naruto paused. Well, one of the books I ran across was for the Land of Iron. They have been taught since birth to never enter the woods at night, or else strange creatures will grab them and drag them to hell. And as if to heighten the suspense, a sharp screech sounding like a woman screaming pierced the air. Toei jumped slightly and Goza looked up. Naruto flicked an ear in annoyance. That was just a screech owl. Name fits, don't it? He said. I knew humped. I would say so. Well, let's just hope these people haven't faced their so-called fears. I say we go into the forest. Besides, trees are more comfy to sleep in than the ground and has better protection. So, they all went into the woods. Nar removed his gray cloak and hit. Inu looked at him. What are you doing? He looked over at them. Night is when the forest awakes. Some animals are more perceptive to human whereabouts than others. I will return when I am satisfied with information. Naruto first rolled around in a moss pile and dirt covering up human scent, then went on the prowls. He sniffed, trying to find maybe a mouse or small rodent. He heard one. He stopped and tensed listening to the small sound as the mouse buried its way beneath the earth. He stepped lightly before finally pouncing on his prey. He caught the small creature. It screamed in fear. He quickly silenced it by covering its small tiny mouth. Shush. I am not going to eat you. He whispered harshly. The mouse looked at him in both fear and confusion, but was silenced. He attentively removed pressure and set the mouse down, but made sure to keep a paw on its tail. Can you tell me if any humans have been around? Or more importantly, small groups of them dressed in black with, he paused as he tried to think of a word the mouse would understand. Shells on their face. The mouse looked at him for a moment before saying, no, and yes, I see 2 legs with black but no shells. Then I see 2 legs on the hunt. Big herd of 2 legs. Angry, bloodthirsty, but not hungry. They bad news. Naruto smirked. He caught the right little mouse. Can you tell me how big of herd? The mouse paused. Hey, wait, what do I get out of this? The mouse yelled at him. Nar blinked. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you wanted to be eaten instead of talked to. Well, my mistake, he said, lifting the mouse up. Hey, wait. The mouse yelled. Nar stopped. Yes. The mouse swallowed as he caught his breath. Okay. Just a few days ago, about maybe 3 times, my front paws were traveling together. Okay, I hid in my hole. Alright, that's all I know. Please let me go. Don't eat me. My mate is pregnant. I have almost a herd of melons to feed. He exclaimed, almost crying now. Nar sighed and dropped him. Thank you. The mouse yelled as he skewered into his little hole. Nar continued on and was able to persuade an owl to talk to him about the location of these humans. The owl was smarter and confirmed what the mouse said, and the owl said they were traveling towards the large river gorge. Naruto thanked him and walked back to camp. He curled inside the hollow of a tree and slept. The next day, at the crack of dawn, everyone was up. Naruto gave out the information he had got. Toy turned to Goza. Are we to be headed in that direction? Goa sighed and nodded. Yes, that river is a marker, one of the only ones that leads southeast. Toei said nothing for a bit. Then he finally said, if we lie low, we will not be found out. We should follow the gorge as long as possible. Nar nodded. It seemed like a wise decision. And UNU stood. We should get moving then. The sooner we get to Konoha, the sooner we are Anbu. Naruto nodded and followed her lead. Instead of putting his stuff back on, he rolled it into a tight ball and asked Goa if he minded to carry it in his bag. Go looked at him. Sure, it's just a little fabric, that's all. So, the others put on a camouflage jutsu and headed out. Nar traveled in a circle around the group, always on guard, looking for any signs of danger. They stopped at midday for a break. Nurid laid down. Anu served out 3 rice balls for each person. Nurid cleaned his pads and ate, and it was silent for the entire meal. They continued out wanting to conserve their strength. They did not use the invisibility jutsu. For that day, they did not run into anything. They stopped for camp. They each had 3 rice balls and a small cup of cold miso soup. Nar slept until a few hours before dawn, then went out to see if he could get any information. It came. He walked about quietly, his ears and eyes alert. When he smelled smoke, he knew it was not from their campfire, cause theirs had been put out. He followed hesitantly the smell. It led him quite a ways up a large hill. He slung through the tall grass that hid him from the view of what was below him. 3 fires burned low with several bumps around each one. He spotted a half-asleep sentry looking the way opposite of Nar. He sat there hunched over and counted the number of men. He grimaced. There was at least 15 around each fire, which meant they were against 9-1 odds. Naruto slunk back away and quietly yet quickly ran back to their camp. He saw Anwan watch. He motioned for her to silently wake everyone up. The camp was at least a mile and a half away, but Nar did not want to take any chances. Besides, the other camp would be waking up soon. Once all of them were awake, he wrote out in the secret Ambu code what he had seen. Looks of shock and fear crossed some of their faces as the realization hit them. This was no longer a game anymore. This was real. They really could die. Toy had shaking hands as he reached for the stick and tried to write out the orders. They were to dodge them as best as possible. They were going to slip into the gorge and walk along the thin trail beneath the overhang of rock, hoping that it would provide enough cover and that the enemy wouldn't think to look there. They moved silently like a pride of lions. Quietly yet surprisingly graceful, they infused chakra to their legs and traveled down the gorge wall. Near the bottom, they landed, kicking up small clouds of dust, then moved in beneath the overhand of wall. Naruto hoped it was stable rock and wouldn't collapse. They traveled slowly cause they had to scrunch down and maneuver around rocks and tight spaces. They followed Toei. This time, Naruto was in the back. The dry stone and dust caused much irritation to their lungs and throats. So, they covered their mouths with damp fabric using their precious water supply up even faster. Nar paused as the crevice made a sharp incline. They traveled up ways for a bit, then finally evened out about 50 feet from the gorge bottom. Sometimes the ledge beneath the overhang was so thin they were forced to walk parallel on the wall until it became thicker or try and painstakingly inch across and grope the wall for handholds. They stopped and rested at midday. Exhausted, sweaty, and beat, all of them were covered in the red like clay and dust. They each had a drink of water and 1 rice ball because none of them had the energy or the appetite to eat. Nar rested his eyes for a moment and found himself later being shaken awake by Ano. He looked at him and said, "Wake up." In an emotionless voice, and even Ano was too tired to be mad at him. Boku looked at the single track carefully. It was a few hours old and led away from camp. He had came to the top of the hill for a better view of the land. When he noticed a play in the grass, where it looked as if a creature laid for quite some time, he investigated it further and found a few hairs that belonged to some sort of animal. But Boku had been hunting in this land for ages and knew no animal that had this certain shade of color, a cream almost white color. He followed the slight path a ways until he came upon this track. It was a wolf track. That was for certain. And judging by the depth of the track, it was moving at a pretty good clip to make this track. But why would a wolf come that near to fire or people for that matter? But then Boku looked to the woods and muttered a small prayer. Unless it was one of the hunting hounds of the devils. They were said to be the size of any normal wolf, but had the intelligence of a human, could talk and woo fools to come into the woods. Boku had listened to many a nights of the scary stories. It was said they had strange abilities. They could summon up to 1,000 of their brethren in a single howl. They were frightening beast of the night. Boku shook his head. I am no longer a child. It is just my imagination, but still the thought of going into the woods stirred him on the inside. He followed the tracks. It was true they lead to the woods, but then he spotted 5 separate trails leading away from the woods into the gorge. Wolves did not go into the gorge. There was no good prey, and neither did wolves spy on camps. So maybe it was not a wolf, but one of those rare summoning creatures he had heard powerful ninja had. Anger filled him. Powerful ninja who wanted the gold he and his ancestors had worked for. He brought his fingers to his lips and let out 3 short quick whistles. He heard the 2 low answering calls. Everyone was now hurrying to him. Boku walked to the edge of the gorge side and looked down. They were going on a hunt. So guys, what do you think about this Naruto story? Tell me your opinion in the comments. And if you want more Naruto what if stories, make sure to subscribe to Universe of Naruto. Thanks for watching.